An earth-shaking roar rips through the woods, sending 2 young elves sprinting for their lives through the thicket. Terrified, one of them bellows, "Windwalker's grace." Boom, system notification pops up, skill activated. He's booking it, desperate to escape whatever's behind them while stacking Fleetfoot and Woodrunner. The girl, Mary, screams at Arthur to slow down. Poor Mary. She's only a level 9 wood elf, and her status window is flashing a nasty confusion debuff. Arthur's losing it. He tells her the monster is closing in and she can't dare look back. He's a level 10, but he's completely paralyzed by the terror status. He snaps, asking if she wants to end up as lunch. Shaking, she begs him to use his ranger skills to get them the hell out of there. But he's empty, stone cold dry. He admits he's got absolutely nothing left in the tank. Then wait for it, a new skill pings. Coward's Flight. It's a massive speed boost that only works if you're running away without looking back. Talk about perfect timing. He hammers down on the gas, whispering a prayer to blessed Lion, hoping this miracle is enough to save them. He grabs Margaret's hand, telling her to hold on tight as they launch toward the village like a freaking meteor, shouting they need to alert the guard. Back in the woods, the creature is just confused. Suddenly alone, it sulks off, visibly annoyed. No one left to hunt. Lame. A bit later, the duo of exhausted adventurers hits the city gates, screaming for the alarms to be sounded. Margaret hits the dirt, completely spent, while Oswald points a trembling finger. He gasps out the impossible. The humans, they're back. Panic hits the city like a wave. People are losing their minds, but one specific elf stands back, watching the chaos with a curious glint in his eye. Inside a massive, opulent manor, a voice asks if he heard the commotion. That elf just scoffs, saying the kid was loud enough to wake the dead. Then her tone shifts. Serious, if the report is true, they need a professional. She turns to him, Richard. Richard S. not convinced. He looks at the report, it's just a young human. At that age, usually about as threatening as a house cat. But the noblewoman shuts that down fast. Humans evolve at a terrifying rate. Even the young ones are walking time bombs. She reminds him of the nightmare history. How humans started the War of 6 Nations over a tiny border scrap just because their hunger for levels is bottomless. They would have swallowed all of Eldoria if the world hadn't united. Elves, beastmen, harpies, dwarves, Jellans, and draconians, everyone had to join the fight. And even then, they barely scraped by. The longer humans fight, the faster they level. It's not just growth, it's a supernatural surge. A total addiction. It drowns their humanity in a sea of pure, unadulterated madness. You couldn't stop them until they doomed themselves with one final, spiteful act, the cataclysm. Since that day, humans have been extinct, until now. That's why Richard is the only choice. He's a level 48 elite ranger, but his status shows a heavy melancholy debuff weighing him down. She explains that Catherine and Maud are out on patrol, leaving the village wide, open, and vulnerable. He needs to hunt this human down before they vanish. Richard tenses up. After everything they've lost, he tells the elders he's not sure he still has that killer instinct in him. After everything they surrendered, the weight of the past is heavy. He's not sure he can face what's coming. The elder understands the pain. No one forgets the stories, but Richard is the last elite ranger left in the village. It's on him. Richard looks back, his eyes full of a strange, helpless sorrow. He takes a second, breathes, and then squares his shoulders. "As you wish," he says, his voice like iron. Cut to the forest. The elven squad spots something in the shadows. One of them asks if it's really 𝑬𝒗𝒄𝒚, but Richard cuts him off, "Stay sharp." He triggers his identification skill. Time to see what they're dealing with. There he is, a level 4 human, but his status window is a mess. Melancholy, loneliness, and leveling addiction. Dangerous combo. The kid just finished off a beast and is dragging his sword through the dirt, muttering about being hungry. Richard calmly draws an arrow. "This will be painless," he whispers. Skill trigger, power shot. Skill trigger, piercing arrow. He lets it fly, aiming for an instant kill. A grim prayer. May your God embrace you, and may you never shadow the woods of Ironwood again. The arrow screams through the air with terrifying force. But holy hell, the human dodges it. The arrow obliterates a tree behind him, leaving a massive crater. Richard is stunned. Even at level 4, his speed is insane. Now the human is awake. He's dancing through a hail of arrows until finally, thwack, one catches him right in the leg. The ranger sees his opening and charges, swinging his weapon with everything he's got, but the kid, he just blocks it, effortlessly. Sparks fly as they start trading blows in the clearing. Suddenly, the human stops playing defense. He lunges with a counterattack that catches Richard completely off guard. Richard is struggling, barely holding back the human's raw strength. Then the human speaks, "Please, if you can understand me." Richard freezes. A talking human. He orders his rangers to fall back, but it's too late. The ground shakes as a nightmare emerges. The Forest Lord, a level 42 behemoth with the infected status. The monster slams into them, sending the elves flying like ragdolls. Riordan lunges into the fray. He throws himself at the beast, desperate to shield his comrade from certain death. Crack, he drives his steel deep into the monster's spine, but realization hits like a ton of bricks. His blade is wedged tight. He's stuck. The beast turns, eyes burning with malice. Riordan is forced to bail, leaping back as the creature roars in absolute fury and charges, sending him stumbling to the dirt. It's over. The monstrosity looms above him, and he can only brace for the impact as he tries to defend his life. Then the stranger appears. While the beast growls and drools over a terrified Riordan, the human steps up and hammers a massive sword straight through its skull. Just like that, the titan of the forest hits the ground, cold and lifeless. Riordan drags himself from the carcass, gasping, "May the heavens have mercy on me." A glowing terminal flickers. The raging elder bear is slain, and this human just surged all the way to level 8. Pure, unadulterated anxiety. Using his identification skill, the elf freezes. This human's growth is unnatural. He hasn't seen power surge like this in ages, and honestly, it's terrifying. Without a word, the boy rips his heavy blade from the skull of the defeated creature. He glares at Riordan. "You tried to kill me," he growls. He'd done nothing to this elf, yet here he was, being hunted like everything else in this cursed forest. He checks his stats. 4 whole levels gained from that one bear alone. With cold determination in his eyes, he wonders aloud, how many levels would he get for eliminating the elf? 1 week earlier, a simpler time, a cheerful guy asks his mate for all the juicy gossip from last night's party. His friend, Jason, grins. "It was legendary, Rob. You should have been there to see the chaos." Rob sighs. He was barred after that firework incident, even if they couldn't prove a thing. Jason just laughs, saying the crowd would have loved him. Rob thinks they only like him because of Jason, but his friend shuts that down fast. "No, they like you because you're cool, Rob." That hits home. Rob gets all shy, joking that if Jason keeps the compliments coming, he's going to start blushing. "Too late, you're already red," Jason teases. Rob snaps back, blaming the midday heat for his glowing face. Suddenly, Jason's called away to talk to some girls. Rob watches him go, thinking about how they've been brothers since kindergarten. Jason was always the one dragging him out of his shell, but the truth, Rob loves his shell. It's cozy and it smells like pizza. Jason shouts for him to hurry. They've got an appointment with the therapist, unless Rob wants to run the whole way. But then, the air changes. Something strange was happening. Jason looks back, confused. "What's with the face? You look like you just saw your old high school gym teacher." Rob can barely speak, pointing at the shadow behind them. Jason curses. That is definitely not a teacher. Rob screams, "Run." They bolt, but amidst the panic, Jason spots another student hit the floor. He lets go of Rob's hand. "Jason, no," Rob cries, but Jason's already there, telling the fallen person that he's got them. Rob watches, paralyzed. He was always the spectator, never the hero. The creature thrashes through the halls. It was always Jason playing the hero, never him. "Jason, it's right behind you," Rob bellows. They're running for their lives. Rob's inner voice screaming that he's no hero. Right then, a tentacle snaps out and snatches Jason's leg. Jason slams into the ground. "I can't move. Rob, help me." Something clicks. Rob turns back, sprinting toward his friend. This time, he has to try. Suddenly, a jagged chain erupts from the monster, flying straight for the helpless Jason. Rob doesn't think twice. He dives, throwing his body over his friend to take the hit. The cold iron wraps tight around his arm. "This is bad," he mutters as the chain transforms into a permanent shackle. Jason is free, but Rob, he's being pulled into the abyss. Jason screams his name, reaching out, but Rob is being dragged toward a shimmering, dark doorway. The last thing he sees before the darkness takes him is his friend, sprinting desperately to catch him. Rob falls through a void of empty space. Purple energy begins to consume his body until he's suddenly encased in a floating cube. He drifts deeper and deeper into the unknown while an eerie voice whispers, "You'll do just fine." Sometime later, Rob wakes up coughing. Am I dead?" He's in a damp cave. He tells himself not to walk toward the light, but he emerges anyway. Not dead, great, but where is he? He wanders to a cliff's edge, and the view that greets him is absolutely insane. A massive volcano looms and prehistoric beasts soar over a dense forest. Rob's heart sinks. He is very far from campus. He tries to keep his cool. He needs to find Jason. He has to know where the hell he is. Is he even okay? Rob decides to move but stops dead. What on earth are these things on my feet? Arthur notices a heavy, ornate broadsword strapped to his back. He draws the blade, feeling its cold weight, and ouch, he accidentally nicks his finger. This isn't a prop. It's razor sharp and very real. Suddenly, a glowing window flickers into existence right before his eyes. It says he just lost 1 point of health. He taps the screen and his stats pop up. Level 1 human. Name, Arthur. It's got everything HP, vigor, and mana, just like a game. Is this some kind of high-tech VR? He looks at the interface, and it's all classic RPG lingo. It's wild, but he's weirdly keeping his cool. He spots a passive skill called Rapid Literacy. A skill? Seriously. He's surprisingly calm, almost too calm for someone who just appeared in the middle of nowhere. Then crack, a massive roar echoes through the woods. Okay, scratch that. Now he's officially freaking out. Out of the shadows, a monstrous, rotting wolf emerges from the blackwood. It's huge, diseased, and looks absolutely lethal. The thing limps forward, leaving a trail of black slime. The system identifies it as a level 8 plague-infected wolf. Arthur's heart nearly stops. You've got to be kidding me. How do I even use this thing? He's shaking like a leaf, pointing his sword at the beast and stammering for it to stay back. Pure panic takes over. He starts swinging the heavy blade around like a madman, eyes squeezed shut, hoping for a miracle. The wolf is still a few yards away, but then it lets out a blood-curdling howl and lunges. Arthur just holds his ground, praying for survival while refusing to look. Pure luck. He feels the blade sink into something soft. He opens one eye and realizes he actually stabbed the monster by complete accident. But it's not over. The beast snarls, its hot breath hitting his face. Terrified, Arthur just shuts his eyes again and screams at the top of his lungs. Then pain. The wolf sinks its teeth into his shoulder. The agony triggers something in him. He roars, swings the blade with everything he has, and slices that wolf clean in half. The beast's body hits the dirt. Finally, it's over, defeated. He reaches for his shoulder, hissing in pain. His head starts to spin and his legs just give out. He collapses next to the dead monster. The system pings, 5 HP gone, then 9. Damn, this really hurts, he groans. The HP bar is dropping steadily. Bleeding. He realizes right then this isn't a game. That blood, that's his, and it's very real. The screen flashes red. Severe hemorrhaging. His health is tanking. He slumps against an oak tree, gasping for air as the numbers keep falling. This has to be a nightmare, right? He'll wake up in his bed any second, but he looks at his blood-stained hands and knows the truth. He's dying. He has to stop the bleed. Arthur fumbles with his tunic. tearing off a strip of fabric with trembling hands to make a makeshift bandage. His mind is racing. It won't stop. Why won't it stop? He's never been in this much pain in his entire life. Think, Arthur, think. He tries to remember his old academy lessons on biology. He even tries to crack a weak joke to keep from passing out. He remembers Julian's mother was a healer back in the village. What did she always say? Stop the shock, elevate the limb to reduce the flow. Thanks, Mrs. Miller, he mutters. He rolls onto his side and tries to keep his arm up, but it feels like lead. It's not working. No, he snarls through gritted teeth. I am not dying in some godforsaken forest. Who does this? Throwing him through a portal and leaving him to be wolf bait. He refuses to just lie there and take it. Not today, not ever. He's getting out of this alive if it's the last thing he does. I'll find you, he screams into the void. I'll kick your teeth in and make you send me home. Suddenly, the wolf's carcass starts to twitch. The beast melts into a puddle of dark sludge. A notification pings. Plague wolf slain. Then the golden glow. Level 2. He just gained 5 more attribute points for his stats. He stares, completely lost. Another window pops up. He earned a bonus skill, Last Stand. It boosts his resistances when he's on the brink of death. He hits confirm. Immediately, his vitality jumps by 10 points. The rewards keep coming. He gains Tough Hide for damage reduction and passive mending, which heals 10% of his health every hour. With his body finally stabilizing, exhaustion takes over. He collapses into a deep sleep right there on the forest floor. In his dreams, he's back home. Julian is talking about a massive party over on Westminster Street. Arthur laughs, drinks, music, the whole 9 yards. Julian looks at him, totally surprised. Wait, you're actually coming. Since when do you leave your room and your games for the real world? Arthur shrugs. Hey, I don't go looking for trouble. It just has a way of finding me, you know. Julian grins. Yeah, right. Tell that to the guys who saw us with those fireworks last summer. Look, Arthur says, once we graduate, we won't get to be this stupid anymore. We gotta hit our quota of mistakes now. He knows this isn't real, but seeing his best friend again feels amazing. I'm coming home, Julian. I'm coming home no matter what. But Julian's face goes cold. Even if you do, you won't see me. I'm dead, Arthur. Arthur freezes. What did you just say? Julian just sighs. I'm 6 feet under, gone for good. I'm dead, Julian shouts. What were you thinking? That you actually saved me or something? Arthur's world starts to crumble. This can't be true. Julian just looks at him with hollow eyes. You never did care about the consequences, did you? He tells him straight up. He could have been yanked right into that abyss, dragged into eternal damnation, and honestly, there's no reason to think it was just a single soul-binding chain. Alaric tries to play it off, claiming he's clueless about all that, but his supposed friend isn't letting it go. He knows it could have happened. Our hero finally snaps, screaming at him to shut the hell up because it's all just a twisted hallucination. But Julian just smirks, telling Alaric to look in a mirror. He looks like a pathetic, abandoned pup. Then comes the real sting. He asks Alaric if he truly believed their childhood bond meant anything, that they were just 2 kids meeting by chance with no grand design behind it. Reaching out, Alaric rips the locket from his neck. I'm done with you, he mutters, finally cutting ties with the memory of his brother-in-arms. Stunned silence. Julian can only stare, asking what he thinks he's doing. Then the mask slips. With a sickening, twisted grin, Julian steps back. You really don't see it. Suddenly, foul purple tentacles erupt from the shadows, pinning Alaric down as the corruption begins to consume him whole. Gasp, he bolts upright, heart hammering against his ribs. Just a nightmare, but the terror feels way too real. Slumped against a gnarled tree, Alaric tries to steady his breathing. The nightmare was a mess, but the reality... He's still trapped in this godforsaken realm. He slowly unwinds the bloody bandages from his arm. And would you look at that? He's actually healed. Finally, a bit of good news. This world operates on some twisted logic, that's for sure. At least he didn't end up like that dire wolf. That beast. Nothing but a pile of melting sludge now. He can't tear his eyes away from the remains. He's the one who ended it. His stomach churns, bile rising in his throat as the sheer disgust hits him. He can't hold it back. He retches right there in the dirt, wondering if this day can actually get any more miserable. Trudging through the freezing rain, his glowing interface flickers, vitality dropping, then ticking up just a fraction. "I'm a fool," he whispers to the wind. It can always get worse. The slow hum of his regeneration skill brings a tiny bit of relief, even if it's moving at a snail's pace. But then a spark of realization hits him. When he hit that next tier, he didn't just survive. He unlocked a whole new set of skills. He pulls up the interface, his eyes locking onto a specific ability he just triggered. "Is this some kind of cosmic prank?" he mutters. Whoever built this hellscape definitely has a sick sense of humor, and they clearly know the legends from back home. He sits back, staring at the floating screen. Does he really have to flirt with death every single time just to get stronger? Whatever, if that's the game, he'll play it. He's going to grab every ounce of power he can just to crawl out of this fantasy nightmare. 15 minutes are up. The skill is ready again. It's not much, but it's the only thing keeping him from the grave. But the thought haunts him. If that vitality hits 0, is it over? This isn't some tavern story. There's no restart button in this world. Huddled in a damp cave, he imagines the forest outside filled with monstrous beasts on magical steroids. All he wants is to be back in his own bed. He tries to rub some warmth into his frozen hands. If blood and steel are the only way out, well, he's done it once. He remembers the exact moment he brought that shadow beast down. Shivering violently, he tries to push the thoughts away for later. Why did he quit the Royal Scouts before they taught him the fire-starting basics? He fumbles through his pockets, hoping for a flint or a stray match. Wait, his fingers brush against something. A scrap of parchment. He pulls it out, squinting through the gloom at the handwriting. His blood boils as he reads it. Just 2 words on a dirty piece of paper. Good luck. He just sits there, fuming at the insult. Meanwhile, deep in the kingdom of 𝒂𝒗𝒄𝒆, a desperate battle is unfolding against a swarm of giant arachnids. Leading the charge is Lady Kiera, a Tier 27 vanguard. She's exhausted, but her resolve is pure steel. "Kiera, there's too many," shouts Merrick, a Tier 25 woodland sentry. You can see the caution and the sheer fatigue written all over his face. She knows he's right. Clearing this dungeon with just the 2 of them, it's a suicide mission. "Stay on me," she roars over the screeching of the monsters. "If we split up, we're dead." Merrick gritted his teeth. He really thought this was going to be an easy run. It's the first rift to open near the village, and Kiera's pride as a vanguard wouldn't let her back down. She thought she could tank anything. That's what her class is built for, just like he's built to scout from the shadows. She pulls him into cover as he snaps back that their tiers aren't high enough. If only they could level up faster. Kiera's expression goes dark. There's only one entity that can grant power like that, and it's a nightmare far worse than anything in this pit. She breathes a prayer to Saint Elowen, thankful they don't live anywhere near that creature's territory anymore. Back in his cave, Alaric is still losing it over that note. Some idiot drops him in a death trap and just says, "Good luck." He crumples the parchment into a tight ball. "I don't care what it takes," he growls. "I'm staying alive and I'm finding a way home." As he stands, the interface chimes. For surviving the brink of death and recovering his health, he's awarded a permanent point in vitality. He can't help but smirk. Now that's a win. But the victory is short-lived, as his stomach lets out a thunderous growl. New plan. Objective 1, find food and clean water. Objective 2, start grinding for more experience. He looks at the screen one last time. The higher his tier, the better his chances. With a fresh wave of fire in his eyes, he mutters, "Let's go." Standing tall against the unknown, Alaric faces his destiny and whispers, "Trust me on this one. You're really not going to like what comes next." Then, he lunges at a tiny marsh hopper, muttering about how he really didn't want to do this, only to end up covered in gross, sticky frog slime for a single point of experience. But hey, a win is a win. Our hero rushes off with a grin, spotting another unlucky hopper and immediately giving chase through the brush. "Get back here, number 2, he yells, desperate for that sweet experience, until he trips over a jagged rock and face plants into a mud puddle while the frog escapes. He jerks his head up from the muck, eyes wide with a sudden, frantic realization as he gasps, "Wait! Hold on a second." There he is, floating half-naked in the water, realizing he'll never be thirsty again. But soon enough, he's wandering the woods shouting for a portal back to the kingdom. "Where are you? I need to get home," he cries out, crouching by a small pond and wondering if the way back is hidden somewhere beneath the surface. But just as he's begging the portal to appear, a nightmare emerges from the shadows, a twisted beast bearing rows of razor-sharp teeth right at him. He keeps moving, checking his magical system tome, and realizes that mana actually refers to magic, so now he's wondering if he can actually cast spells. Suddenly, he drops into a stance and tries to fire off a legendary energy blast, only to realize it's a total dud, leaving him looking like a complete idiot. A bit further ahead, he spots a massive, bloated marsh hopper and approaches it with the mock confidence of a legendary monster hunter. The frog looks completely unimpressed by our hero's grand entrance, but it still gets crushed into one tiny point of experience regardless. Later, he tries to move a branch using only his mind, but his magic is basically non-existent. So he sighs, gives up on the telekinesis, and just grabs the fruit with his hands. The hunger is starting to get monstrous now, and he realizes that stomping on tiny frogs isn't exactly a fast track to becoming a powerful knight. He is nowhere near a level up and knows he needs to hunt something bigger than pond life. And right then, a strange rustle echoes nearby. "What was that?" he asks, spinning around just in time to see a bird take flight. There goes his precious experience, flying away into the trees. Our boy Alaric stays there, surrounded by the aftermath of his frog massacre, feeling absolutely ridiculous about the whole situation. Suddenly, the system tome chimes in. He has gained a passive skill in swordsmanship, making him proficient with blades and heavy steel weapons. Alaric scoffs. Apparently, when you've never touched a weapon in your life, a little bit of practice is all it takes to go from level 0 to level 1. But man, that hunger is still clawing at him, and these frogs are doing absolutely nothing for his power level or his stomach. He is miles away from leveling up and knows he needs a real challenge. And that's when he hears another suspicious sound coming from the brush. He turns, wondering what's waiting for him, and honestly, he thinks he has found the Holy Grail, and it is the cutest thing he's ever seen. All he needs to do is land one perfect sword throw on that little squirrel, convinced that one tiny rodent is his ticket to the top. Wait, scratch that. That is an infected, level 3 corrupted stalker, and let's just say, it is definitely not cute anymore. The foul thing lunges at his face, while he lets out a literal scream, but he manages to catch it midair and slams it headfirst into a tree. The system tome flashes, 10 experience points for the kill, but now Alaric is stuck staring at his hand, which is absolutely covered in monster remains. But the gross-out factor fades when he hits level 3 instantly, gaining 5 brand-new attribute points to power up his stats. "Take that," he jokes, pointing at the carcass. "Who is the level 3 master now? Not you, buddy." He actually starts laughing at the dead creature, mocking it because now it is just a pathetic level 0 pile of fur. Then a notification pops up. His perception has increased by 1, and he has unlocked a foraging skill for finding food, water, and tracking prey. Satisfied with his progress, he continues his trek through the woods, leaving the disgusting remains dripping from the tree bark behind him. When suddenly, bam, another twisted rodent with a literal crazy face drops out of nowhere and tackles him. This one is a level 4 corrupted stalker, and it lands a direct hit right on our hero's head, knocking him sideways. Alaric starts running and screaming for the thing to get off, flailing wildly until he finally manages to shake the persistent little monster loose. He tries to bolt, but the creature is like a maniac, chasing him relentlessly until Alaric hits a dead end, a massive cliff with nowhere left to run. He curses his luck, shouting at the sky about why this fantasy world doesn't have any protective barriers or safety walls. Like a furry bullet, the beast slams into 𝒂𝒗𝒄𝒆 back, launching him right off the edge, and both of them go plummeting down, screaming in desperation. Luckily, 𝒂𝒗𝒄𝒆 manages to snag a passing branch, but the annoying creature isn't so lucky and keeps falling, leaving our hero dangling there, needing a way up. He could try to find a better handhold, or honestly, he could just let go and give up right now. Why not? He thinks. His parents have no idea where he is, and it has already been 2 days, which quickly turns into a week, then a whole month. He knows Jason will tell them the truth, but will they even believe him? Will he ever see his family's faces again? And if he never makes it back, who will he become? Will he even be the same person who left them behind? Tears streaming down his face, he realizes he can't stop. He draws his sword, heart racing, and vows that one way or another he is going home. Suddenly, the system tome glows. He has just unlocked a passive climbing skill, making him a natural at scaling these jagged rocks. And when he finally crawls over the top edge, gasping for air, he receives the deep breathing skill, allowing him to recover his stamina instantly. Finally, our boy Robert barely finishes the grueling climb, but hey, his climbing skill just ticked up from level 1 to 2. He collapses at the summit, finally catching a break and snagging a point in dexterity for those clutch, life-saving reflexes. Gasping for air, he mutters that this land is literally trying to kill him, though he has to admit, the view is absolutely breathtaking. Tears well up as he looks out. He just knows Jason would have absolutely loved to see a place as beautiful as this. He makes a silent promise to himself that one day, he'll tell Jason and the rest of his family everything about this wild journey. But as he sobs, the system chimes in with a rare skill, melancholy resistance. It's designed to help him recover from grief, but Robert isn't having it. No, please, I don't want to lose this. He's devastated. That pain is a part of who he is, and he refuses to let a machine numb his humanity. Sensing his protest, the interface flickers and shuts the skill off. Back to reality. He misses them like crazy, knowing deep down they're still waiting for him. Meanwhile, over in the elven woods, a scout named Oliver is failing miserably at catching fish with his bare hands while his partner, Madeline, teases him. She watches him struggle for a second, before suggesting that maybe the others should just bash the fish instead. Oliver's just vibing, though. He's in no rush at all, telling her it's far too nice of a day to be stressed. Madeline has to agree. The forest feels incredibly peaceful today. But back in the dangerous wilds of 𝒂𝒗𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔, Robert is having a very different experience. He's currently locked in a desperate struggle against a massive wolf. "Give me a break," Robert yells, swinging his blade to keep the beast back, even apologizing to the creature for the beating he's about to deliver. The system warns him. It's a level 8 frenzied wolf, and things get worse. The poor thing is infected. You can see it right on its skin. Honestly, at this point, Robert doesn't even think it's strange anymore. Just another day in paradise. The wolf lunges with a snarl, claws out, but Robert is faster. He drives his sword straight through its torso in one clean strike. But he doesn't walk away unscathed. The beast manages to leave a nasty scratch right across his face. He drops his sword as the monster collapses with a heavy thud. Annoyed, he wonders how it was even still standing. Must be some fantasy version of rabies. As if the sword wound meant nothing, the monster scrambles back up and charges one more time. Robert meets it head-on with a devastating punch. They trade blows, his fists clashing against the creature's frantic swipes. Finally, one massive haymaker sends the animal flying, and it lands hard on its back in the grass. Seeing his opening, Robert retrieves his sword and delivers the final blow. The creature lets out one last, giant sneeze before it finally goes quiet. He stands there, staring at the fallen wolf. He knows it. This is the moment. Boom, level 3 achieved. He nets 5 stat points and even unlocks a new passive skill for his trouble. As the wound on his face begins to knit itself back together, he lets out a dry laugh. This is weird, but honestly, that was actually fun. He pulls up his character sheet to check his stats and notices those 5 unspent points burning a hole in his pocket. He's hovering near 30 vitality, so he decides to dump the points there, gambling on the hope that it'll unlock something special. The gamble pays off. He now has 20% life regeneration every single hour. He stares at the screen for a second, kind of hoping for a bigger boost, but he'll take what he can get. He spends 1 more point to hit 20 spirit, unlocking quick thinking, a skill that boosts his mental speed, though it'll drain him if he keeps it on too long. Checking his updated sheet, he's feeling pretty good. That was definitely worth the investment. All hyped up now, he bellows at the forest. Bring it on, wolves, but maybe the healthy ones this time. He continues his hike in high spirits, hoping for a normal animal he can actually cook for dinner. Suddenly, he comes face to face with that elven couple. Total silence. Both sides are absolutely startled to see another living soul out here. Robert is genuinely thrilled to find people at last. He checks the system. Oliver is a level 10 patrol scout, and he looks absolutely terrified. Madeline is a level 9 forest elf, and she's just confused. Robert tries to be polite and asks for their names. But they aren't sticking around for a chat. They bolt like their lives depend on it, screaming "Outlander" as they disappear into the brush. Robert waves his arms like a madman, begging them to wait and come back, but they don't even look back. They keep running at full tilt. Robert stands there, completely baffled as to why they're so spooked. "Well, nice to meet you too, Outlander," he mutters. He's feeling pretty down, his first shot at civilization, and they ran like he was the monster. He yells out to the trees, asking if anyone, elf, wolf, literally anything, is still out there to talk to. He walks back to the dead wolf and sits down, sighing that it would be nice just to have a single conversation. He even snaps at the system, telling it to make his voice louder so someone might actually hear him. Silence, no response. Feeling small again, he mutters that he's going back to his cave, but then a bush nearby rustles. Wait for it. Starving and on his last legs, Rob stumbles back toward the camp, completely unaware that 2 elven scouts are tracking his every move from the shadows. He's literally dragging his blade through the dirt, cursing his rotten luck, when THWIP. A streak of blue monolight whistles through the air at lethal speed. Pure dumb luck saves him. He trips over a jagged stone just as the projectile zips past, missing his head by a hair's breadth. The arrow thuds into a nearby oak with a bone-chilling crack. Rob freezes, cold sweat pouring down his face as he realizes how close he just came to meeting his end. That wasn't just a warning. That shot would have torn a huge hole right through him. Panic sets in, and he bolts, wondering what the hell he did to deserve an elven firing squad. One of them catches him. It tears straight through his thigh, leaving a jagged, searing trail of agony that nearly sends him to his knees. No more hiding. An elven warrior drops from the canopy like a hawk, steel flashing as his blade clears its scabbard in one fluid motion. Clang! Rob barely brings his own sword up in time to catch the blow. Sparks fly as the 2 of them trade a flurry of desperate, high-stakes strikes. Between the frantic parries, his system interface flickers to life. The target, a level 48 Wood Elf Ranger. Status, dead set on taking him down. Rob's shouting, practically begging for the guy to just listen for 1 second. For God's sake, he's not the enemy here. Then, roar, a deafening sound shakes the trees. The elf starts barking something in Elvish that Rob can't understand, but one thing is clear. Things just got a whole lot worse. The system pings a warning. This thing is the Lord of the Weald, the apex predator that's ruled these woods for centuries. It's a level 42 ancient beast, but there's a catch: it's infected. This thing isn't just hungry, it's gone completely berserk. Bam! Rob is swatted against a trunk like a fly. His vision starts to fade, but he bites his tongue to stay conscious. He needs a plan, and he needs it now. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. If the bear wins, he's lunch. If the elf wins, he's probably going to finish what he started. The beast is the stuff of nightmares, but the experience points. They'd be massive. This could be his only shot at survival. If he takes this thing down, He might actually level up enough to survive that level 48 ranger. "I need this," he growls, forcing himself up. Tightening his grip on his hilt, the fear vanishes, replaced by a raw, desperate hunger for the win. He's diving in. He launches himself into the fray, driving his steel deep into the infected monster's skull while it's distracted by the elf. Down goes the king. Victory, his levels skyrocket. Not only does he get a stat boost, but the system grants him 2 extra dexterity and 1 endurance for pulling off such an insane feat. Target defeated. Rob stands atop the massive carcass, trying his best to look like a hero, despite the fact that he can barely breathe. He's absolutely spent, but that finishing blow, man, that felt good. There's no feeling quite like it. As he cleans his blade, he realizes that the thrill of the hunt might be the only thing keeping him sane in this twisted world. Time to spend those spoils. He opens his menu, his fingers hovering over the glowing attributes. He dumps 20 points into vitality, hitting the 50-point milestone. Suddenly, his wounds start knitting shut, and a new skill notification pops up, pure magic. He's unlocked Life Surge. Now, with a single thought, he can instantly recover 30% of his health. Talk about a literal lifesaver. Now at level 8, Rob limps toward the stunned elf. "You really tried to kill me, didn't you?" he asks, his voice cold. "I haven't done a damn thing to you. Yet you're just like everyone else in this hellhole, looking for a reason to put me in the ground." After gaining 4 levels from a bear, a dark thought crosses his mind. How much experience would a high-level ranger be worth? The elf starts chanting some elvish spell, raising his hand, but Rob is faster. He brings his blade down, slamming it into the dirt just inches from the man's nose. But he stops. He lets out a shaky breath and pulls the sword back. He's not going to do it. "I didn't survive all this just to become a murderer," he spits. He won't let this brutal world turn him into a monster. He turns away, walking into the trees. "I'm still Rob," he whispers. His status bar flickers, melancholy, level-up surge, and moderate loneliness. And honestly, it hurts. The weight of being alone in this world is finally starting to crush him. His hands won't stop shaking. He stares at them, horrified by the fact that he was actually ready to take a life just a second ago. He clutches his head, trying to drown out the darkness. "That's not me," he tells himself. "I would never do that." He wanders aimlessly through the thicket, a ghost in the woods, trying to bury the memory of that cold look in his own eyes. He walks until his legs feel like lead, nearly tumbling into a massive, yawning pit that definitely wasn't there before. This is new. It looks like a cursed tomb or a one-way trip to a haunted hole. Every survival instinct he has is screaming at him to turn around and run. But what if the way back to his world is down there? He arrived through a portal. Maybe the exit is hidden in the dark. He gulps, the memory of that terrifying chain flashing in his mind. The one that changed everything. That cold, iron link that wrapped around his arm at school and dragged him kicking and screaming into this adventurous nightmare. "I won't let fear win," Rob mutters. "If I want to see home again, I have to face whatever's waiting in the dark." And so, our hero begins the long climb down into the abyss, desperately clinging to memories of home just to keep the terror at bay. But mid-descent, snap, the old rope ladder gives way, and suddenly Rob is in a terrifying freefall into the unknown darkness. This is it, that heavy, life-flashing before your eyes moment. Thud, Alaric hits the ground hard, sprawled out and gasping. Honestly, if he was still at level 0, that fall would have turned him into a pancake. Looks like he's actually starting to survive this hellhole. Small victories, right? At least nothing has jumped out of the shadows to eat him yet. Then a scream. Someone's shouting for Julian. Alaric doesn't hesitate. Someone's in trouble, and he's sprinting toward the voice at full tilt. There, a flicker of light up ahead. A burning torch. A door pulsing with a sickening red glow. Alaric creeps up, holding his breath, and cracks it open just enough to see the nightmare inside. Oh, God. He instantly slams his hand over his mouth, trying not to gag. It's an elf, or what's left of one. The poor guy is sprawled on the floor, his face frozen in a mask of absolute, soul-crushing terror. Alaric stares, his mind racing. It's a grim reminder. Not long ago, he was inches away from meeting the exact same fate. He drops to his knees beside the body. "I'm sorry," he whispers. He doesn't even know why he's apologizing, but it feels right. Nobody deserves an end this brutal. Alaric wonders, do elves have specific rights? Is there something he's supposed to do? He actually starts talking to the corpse, asking if he wants a burial or a pyre, as if the dead man could actually answer. Silence, just that hollow, pained stare coming back at him. He keeps rambling, telling the body he's met other elves before, but honestly, this silent one is a way better conversationalist than those arrogant ones from earlier. He leans closer, eyes closed, praying this didn't happen recently. But then a shadow, looming right behind him. Cold steel, a sword edge bites into his neck. "Don't move," a voice hisses, "unless you want to see what your head looks like off your shoulders." Alaric throws his hands up. "Do you speak my language?" he stammers. The elf girl behind him breaks down, sobbing Julian's name. Her grip tightens on the hilt. "Human," she spits, the word dripping with pure venom. She's convinced he's the one who slaughtered her friend. Alaric is shaking like a leaf. Seriously, is everyone in this world some kind of overpowered monster? She lunges, grabbing him by the throat. "You monster! Why did you do this to him?" Her whole body is trembling with pure, unadulterated rage. "Answer me, or I'll end you right here." Alaric can barely choke out the words. I'm already beat, just stop." She slams him into the dirt with terrifying strength, screaming for an answer through her tears. Alaric's gasping for air, tears stinging his eyes as he desperately calls out to his system terminal. "Identify." Her status pops up. It's bleak, just waves of deep melancholy and skyrocketing terror. Suddenly, she lets go. Alaric collapses into a heap, finally managing to wheeze out that he just found the guy like this. She doesn't want to hear it. "Get out," she snaps. Alaric stays put for a second, rubbing his bruised neck, trying to process it all. The girl drops to her knees, cradling Julian. She whispers his name, a soft sound that just drifts away into the dark. It was her. She was the one screaming for him earlier. "I really need to leave," Alaric thinks. She's spiraling into guilt now. She blames herself for not paying attention, for looking away for just one heartbeat before Julian vanished. She clutches his hand. Who's going to argue with her now when she charges into a fight head first? He was the only one who actually gave a damn about her. She prays to the ancient laws, her voice cracking. "I'm taking you home. Your soul needs to rest." She pulls out a heavy cloak and gently drapes it over his body. Alaric is still standing there, watching this whole heartbreaking scene. "Can I help with anything?" She snaps. She hates having to repeat herself. She looks back at Julian, her face a mask of grief. "You're just a disgusting, weak, vile creature who can't save anyone," she snarls, dumping all her agony onto him. "That's all humans are." She starts walking toward him slowly. Alaric doesn't argue. "You're right," he says softly. Maybe he is a monster. Maybe they all are. But he still wants to help her get her friend home. The elf pauses, looks at him, and finally, thankfully, accepts. But she makes one thing very clear. This doesn't make us friends. "I'm just taking the help." Alaric reaches out a hand, trying to kill the tension. "I'm Alaric." She's still holding her friend close. "Clarice," she replies, surprisingly polite. Suddenly, a notification pings. Passive skill gained. Diplomacy. Apparently, he's getting better at talking his way out of death. She slides her massive greatsword back into its sheath. Alaric takes a breath, replaying the sheer insanity of the last hour. Descending into this hole was the craziest thing he's ever done. "I don't remember this place being this massive," Alaric mutters, as he helps Clarice lift her fallen comrade. Alara explains the weird truth. These ruins, they're alive. Dungeons shift and change as time goes by. It's just hearsay, though. Arthur realizes she's just as green as he is. She admits cryptically that these cursed depths aren't common near her home in the meadows, and honestly, she's glad for it. Arthur asks the obvious, is she just here for a tour? Alara shakes her head, not even close. She just wanted to prove she's not useless. Back home, They never let her forget she was an outcast. She mentions the village of meadows, then sighs, doesn't matter now. Arthur tries to connect. He knows that sting. He's been the outsider his whole life. She looks at him, confused. Is he showing empathy? You're a human, she says, like it's a curse. Arthur just shrugs. Is that a crime? He points out the obvious. She's literally the first person he's seen in this God's forsaken place. Everyone else either tried to gut him or ran screaming. It's lonely out here. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 cuts him off. Don't forget, she tried to kill him too. Fair point. Arthur hopes they're past that, but hey, let's call it a truce until they actually survive this. Better than nothing, right? But then Arthur has a burning question. He's trying to wrap his head around how a place like this even exists when squelch. Something nasty is under his boot. What the hell is this? He groans. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 narrows her eyes. Are you even human? Arthur's baffled. What kind of question is that? See, the legends in her village aren't exactly kind. Humans, they're monsters with zero mercy. She asks how anyone could ever forgive humanity after. Well, that. Arthur cuts in. After what? She's stunned. Does he really not know? Arthur just looks at her. 𝒂𝒓𝒚, I haven't seen a single soul besides myself. She fires off questions like arrows. The Great Expulsion, the Cataclysm, the fall of 𝒂𝒗𝒏, nothing. Arthur's lost. Is she just making up words now? 𝒂𝒓𝒚 gestures to the shadows around them. 𝒂𝒗𝒏 is right here. Arthur blinks. Wait, the dungeon is the city. She groans, calling him a briar fruit. Total idiot. No, she snaps. It's the name of the whole region. Arthur's glad to finally have a map, but seriously, what the hell is a briar fruit? 𝒂𝒓𝒚 sighs. It's a poisonous berry. Not exactly a compliment. Arthur's eyes go wide. Wait, I ate one of those. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 just stares. Has anyone told you you're weird? Daily, he shoots back. So if he's not from Albion, where is he from? He looks into the distance. A place called Earth. 𝒂𝒓𝒚's never heard of that city. Arthur corrects her. It's not a city, it's a whole planet. She's completely floored. Wait, what? Arthur asks. Is that not normal? You know, falling through a magic portal while wrapped in heavy chains. Standard Tuesday. No, just him. Great. The elf asks if he really didn't grow up in Albion. That's the world they're in, just so he's tracked. Arthur nods. Well, I do now, thanks for the heads up. The implications are huge. If he's from another world, he's not linked to the ancient humans who ruined this one. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 feels a tiny bit of relief. So, she asks, why come to this death trap? Without skipping a beat, Arthur says it. He's here to face his demons. She assumes he's just hunting for levels. But Arthur catches her tone. That sounds like a bad thing. They stop dead. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 is on edge now. Stat sheet. Now this isn't a request. Arthur raises his hands. Fine. Anything to keep her sword in its sheath. He summons his magic HUD, and a glowing terminal flickers to life. Go ahead, he mutters. Judge me, I know I'm weak. She exhales. Thank the gods, his leveling speed. It's still low. She's actually relieved about that. Arthur S. never noticed that stat. Rapid evolution. They even have a name for it. It's like an addiction. What happens if that number goes up? He asks. 𝒂𝒓𝒚's face goes cold. Then I'd have to kill you. Arthur gulps. Message received loud and clear. She notices his stats. You know you can upgrade things besides just vitality, right? Arthur's response. I didn't want to die. Between the packs of wolves, the toxic berries, and that terrifying bear, he figured he needed every single health point just to survive the night. Suddenly drop, they crouch low. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 whispers, SHH, did you hear that? Don't move, she warns. Arthur is shaking. Please tell me there isn't something right above me, because it really feels like something is above me. Crack, she slams a massive spider right into the stone wall. What is that thing? Arthur screams. He triggers his identification skill. Level 3 spider hatchlings, dozens of them, and some level 6 bruisers. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 smirks. Looks like another thing to complain about. Arthur's panicking, they're everywhere. There's nowhere to run. One leaps at him. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 blurs into motion, cutting it clean in half. Arthur, she shouts, it's time to fight. Arthur looks at the swarm. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready for this. Robert has a phobia. Spiders. Think of it like that legendary explorer who couldn't stand snakes. Only Robert's version involves way more legs and a lot more screaming. Clara is completely lost on the reference, so our hero just waves it off. "Never mind," he mutters, while she offers a quick, concerned apology to the poor guy. She knows he's terrified, but the situation is dire. "Robert, grab your steel," she commands. "I can't hold this nightmare back by myself." Our hero is literally shaking in his boots as the swarm edges closer, but Clara is a blur of motion, cleaving a spider midair just as it lunges for his head. She's a whirlwind of iron. "First to fly, first to die," she cries, unleashing her devastating reaping circle technique on the front line. 20 of the bastards are down. Only, well, another 100 or so to go. Just a standard day in the life, right? She's counting them down like a grocery list. 10, 9. She actually tears one apart with her bare hands before hurl her blade across the cavern. A perfect strike on a crawler in the shadows. She doesn't miss a beat, sprinting back toward her weapon as she hits the count of 2. She rips her sword from the monster's guts, burning the rest of her ether to trigger one final, massive reaping circle. The spiders are being shredded into blue gore. "This one's for Merton," she bellows, pouring all her grief into every swing. Mid-slaughter, the system pings, level 28. She can feel the raw power surging through her as her stats climb. Then she remembers Robert. She turns around, expecting the worst, only to see a literal mountain of spiders, and hears a muffled, very human scream coming from the center. The pile suddenly explodes. Robert has gone into a total blood-red rage, hacking at the monsters with zero regard for his own life. Clara watches, frozen. Is he losing his mind? But then he snaps to, charging right past her to continue the massacre. He cleaves a spider right off her shoulder. "I had that one handled," she scoffs, though she's clearly breathing a sigh of relief. No reply from him, just frantic, desperate killing while she catches her breath and tries to steady her nerves. "He's a beast," she whispers. Turns out the old knight's legends were actually true. Meanwhile, Robert is internally dying, wondering why the hell there are so many of these things. He's a mess of bites and stinger wounds, covered in foul ichor, but the system pings again. Poison resistance has reached level 2. Level 3 now. He looks like he's about to drop dead, but Clara dives back into the fray just as he hits his limit. The swarm is relentless, biting him over and over, and his resistance keeps climbing through sheer, agonizing willpower. They are literally drowning in spiders. This is pure hell. Buried under a dozen twitching bodies, Robert realizes he's got to clear some space or he's finished. His grand strategy. He throws himself to the cavern floor and starts rolling like a maniac, crushing the life out of anything beneath him. New skill unlocked. Vermin Crusher. Thanks to his crippling phobia, he now deals 5% more damage to anything that crawls. It is, without a doubt, the weirdest fight Clara has ever witnessed. He stands up, half dead and shaking, when a stray spider lunges. He smashes it with a reflex punch so hard his new skill hits level 2 instantly. He's back in it now, crushing carapaces left and right. Skill level 3. He's basically a professional exterminator at this point. Then comes the ultimate buff, the Arachnophobe. It grants 50% more damage to crawlers and an extra 25% specifically for spiders because his hatred is that deep. He's actually starting to feel the rush. Level 9 achieved. One more point in Constitution for his trouble. Robert stumbles toward Clara, his voice cracking as he calls out to her. He's trembling, covered head to toe in spider guts. Are we winning?" he asks before seeing the swarm heading for Merton's body. He loses it, screaming as he rushes to defend his friend. "Show some respect for the dead, you idiots," he roars, tearing through the monsters like a man possessed. Is he actually enjoying this? "Hey, could use a little help over here," he shouts, finally finding his rhythm. One final, bone-shattering punch. Level 10. His brawling skill hits level 3 as the last of the spiders finally stop moving. Clara mops up the stragglers, her blade humming. She stares at him, half impressed, half terrified. Robert just grins. "Where is that healing wave?" He watches his arm, the skin knitting back together as the magic flows through him. Man, that feels good. Clara steps forward, her sword hovering near his neck. Are you back with us, or do I need to put you out of your misery? He just smiles. Misery, me. Then the adrenaline crashes, his face falls. Actually, yeah, definitely in misery. He explains he's not craving blood, far from it. What he really needs is a hot meal and a very long sleep. Clara lowers her steel and nods, kneeling for a final moment with their fallen friend. Fair enough. Let's get out of this dark hole. Much later, they're finally safe, roasting fresh fish over a crackling campfire. Robert looks at the food like it's a pile of gold. Can we do this every day? Clara is looking over his stats, completely baffled. It's a miracle he survived that much venom, and his leveling speed is still only at medium. She honestly thought he'd have hit moderate growth after a stunt like that. Robert doesn't care about the numbers. I don't know what a stat is, but I know this fish is the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. Consider it a thank you, Clara says softly. I honestly don't know how I would have gotten Merton out of there without your help. Our hero just shakes his head. No, thank you for saving me. That was without a doubt the worst experience of my entire life. Even deep within the Great Weald, the monsters wouldn't stop. The locals, they call it the Blight. Clara explains the terrifying truth. No one understands the dark sorcery behind it, but it's rotting the wildlife, twisting every beast into a nightmare abomination. Robin realizes that explains why every living thing in this godforsaken place wants him dead. Fine then, he's ready to move as soon as she is. But Clara drops a bombshell. Now might be the time to mention that her entire village would rather see him dead and buried. Robin just smirks. He already knew that when he ran into that terrifying rank 48 warrior earlier. Clara insists he needs to clean up first. She can't present him to the High Council looking like a crazed wanderer. He asks how she knew her fallen friend, and she recalls their childhood. Stealing bread from the village bakery, always getting into trouble together. They were inseparable. For her, childhood wasn't exactly sunshine and roses. Her friend was the only light in a very dark room. Julian always looked out for her. Hearing this, Robin can only offer his quiet sympathies. The village has its skeletons, she admits. Soon they reach a massive, locked iron gate. Welcome home, she says. Robin notes the silence. Everyone goes to bed early in this town. But Clara shakes her head. Something is wrong. Fear hits her. Not a single candle lit. No torches in the brackets. Nothing. She doesn't wait. Activating her wind step ability, she blurs through the streets like a ghost. Every house is bolted shut. Did the Blight reach the gates? She reaches a door and pounds on it, screaming for Captain Alistair. The door creaks open. Alistair looks at her, stunned to see Clara back. She gasps his leg is mangled. What on earth happened? Alistair sighs. The healers couldn't do a thing. He needs rest, but he sees the look in her eyes. Something more urgent is happening. Then he asks about Julian. Clara chokes up. Her voice trembles as she says the words. He didn't make it. She explains they found a cursed dungeon in the forest. They went to scout it together, but the shadows pulled them apart. By the time she found him. It was too late. Alistair bows his head. May the High Father give him rest in his sacred halls. Clara whispers back. May he find eternal peace. Alistair looks up, his gaze heavy. He asks Clara to take him to the body. He explains the situation. The forest monsters attacked them near the gates. The Blight is growing aggressively every day. That explains the lockdown and the wounded. Clara stops him. Before they get to the body, she has to tell him something. She didn't bring Julian back alone. Alistair's eyes narrow. You mean, a human, she finishes. The knight halts instantly, his hand moving toward his blade. He growls. Did she know they were tracking a human earlier? A dangerously skilled one. Clara stands her ground. Without the human's help, she couldn't have performed the funeral rites. Talk to him, Captain. He's no monster. Alistair relents, but with a cold warning. If Clara insists, he'll talk. But the second that outsider shows a hint of steel, his head is coming off. Clara agrees, but drops the real shocker. This human, he isn't from this world. They find Robin waiting. The second he sees them, he thinks, I'm dead. Of course, she brought the rank 48 monster hunter. Clara steps between them to break the tension. Robin, meet Captain Alistair. We've met, Robin mutters. Alistair nods. Oh, they definitely met. Then it clicks for Robin. Wait, you speak English too. The captain looks at him like he's an idiot. Around here, we just call that the common tongue. Panic sets in for Robin. So this guy understood every word he muttered earlier. Talking to this knight is like facing a brick wall. Robin tries to be civil, extending a hand for a fresh start. Alistair doesn't move. He's not happy to see him again. At all. Clara has to hiss at the captain to play nice. Robin drops the act. Look, I need help. This entire world has been one long nightmare. He pours it out. He's lost, he's terrified, and he's nearly died more times than he can count. Figuring this place out is like a puzzle with all the pieces missing. I know there was a war between our kinds, he admits, but I'm not your enemy, I swear it. If you don't want me here, fine. Just point me to the nearest human kingdom and I'll be out of your hair forever. Alistair stares at him. You're serious? You really don't know where you are? Robin snaps back. Of course he doesn't. Clara's voice is soft and it cuts through the air. Robin, there are no human settlements. Not here, not anywhere. The blood drains from his face. He's the last one. A while later, they're walking through a massive, silent graveyard. Robin asks what happened here. Alistair's voice is heavy with grief. The Great War, victory, there's no such thing when the cost is this high. He remembers the legends, a massive human warrior slaughtering knights, reaching the 33rd tier of power. Families, friends, all gone. Everyone perished in that war. Each one of those headstones represents thousands of lives lost. Robin gasps, thousands of humans. Alistair turns, his eyes cold as ice. No, thousands of our kind slaughtered by humans. Robin is stunned. Humans did that. Alistair explains that back then, human violence knew no bounds. In the end, every other race had to unite just to survive. They called it the cleansing, a beautiful name for an absolute massacre. Alistair snaps, asking what else you'd call the total annihilation of a race and the slaughter of half their remaining brothers. To him, those soldiers were people. Now, nothing but a broken world left in the dirt. The Sylvan commander glares, asking if the human has anything to say. Surely even a gasp of horror is warranted. Arthur's stunned. None of this feels real. It's exactly the kind of darkness the humans in his own world are capable of. Alistair explains it wasn't just lives lost. They lost their very souls. Even the survivors are walking ghosts, scarred forever. 10 long years, a decade of blood and service. He fought when he wanted to give up, when he wanted the earth to just take him. And for what? He screams that Arthur took away his last means of survival. The boy fires back. He wasn't even there. And now, half his skills are useless because his prosthetic arm won't respond. Elara cuts in. Enough, she'll handle the rest. Arthur tenses, is there actually more? The commander is relentless. He wants to list every sin, every crime, every child the humans butchered. But Elara stands firm. It's over for tonight. Everyone needs to sleep. Alistair finally yields. Tomorrow is the big day. Arthur asks the obvious, what happens then? Judgment, you'll be presented to the High Elders, and from what I've heard, they aren't known for mercy, but there's a second path. Leave this enclave now and never look back. Choose your own fate, human. Night falls, but for our hero, there's no peace. Only nightmares. He bolts upright, heart racing. No, he's on a couch, reality hitting him like a truck. He's still trapped in this fantasy world. Apparently, Sylvans live in medieval manners. He hears a faint sound and follows it down the dim hallway. He finds Elara at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes. He asks if she's okay. She just couldn't sleep. He offers a tired smile. Same here. She motions for him to sit while she brews more tea. Elara apologizes for the cramped quarters. It's all a junior ranger's salary can afford in the capital. Arthur laughs. He could totally live here. Turns out he's a student back home, so being broke, that's his natural state. She pours the tea, her voice soft. She admits she can't even imagine the weight of what he's going through. Arthur admits he's barely processed it himself. It just sits there, simmering under the surface, waiting for the inevitable mental breakdown. Alara blinks, whispering that it sounds healthy. He sighs. Now he finally understands why she wanted him dead the second they met. Alara looks away. She didn't walk away from the Great Purge unscathed. She wasn't on the front lines, but she lost everyone. Mirabel was the only one left. They were supposed to be partners after graduation. Honestly, she's no fan of humans. But meeting him changed things. She realized you can't blame one man for the sins of a whole race. He's human, sure, but this wasn't his war. Arthur knows, though the rest of the village won't be so open-minded. Alara hopes they'll change their minds once they see him, but it's an uphill battle. Arthur smirks. He's already climbed to the peak of a cliff. He can handle one more climb. Her eyes widen. How high? And more importantly, how much did his climbing stats go up? Arthur chuckles. You really love stats, don't you? She doesn't hesitate, it's for survival. He explains his climb was actually a fall. She finally gets it. 50 vitality at level 8. Now it makes sense. So Arthur, the man who fell off a cliff and lived. Have you made your choice? The mood shifts. Things just got serious. His answer is simple. Yes. The next morning, a cloaked figure slips through the city streets. He moves like a shadow. The interface flickers, stealth skill acquired. Discretion at the cost of 1 stamina per second. Finally, he stands before the massive doors of the Great Hall. He walks in, calm and collected. From the high table, the elders demand to know who he is. Show your face. Arthur feels like a protagonist in an old western, cinematic as hell. Shocked faces everywhere, exactly as planned. These elders are powerhouse mages, levels 41 to 51. Arthur speaks up, let him introduce himself before they judge. The room erupts. Disgusting, a human, in our halls. They immediately point fingers at Alistair. The chaos builds until Alistair lets out a sharp, piercing whistle. An elder barks at him, but Alistair doesn't flinch. Even with a broken leg, he's still more than a match for them. He tells them to stand down. The human made his choice. He's here for his judgment. The High Elder delivers his cold verdict. Remove the human immediately, along with his companion. But our hero isn't backing down. Rob, he interrupts. His name is Rob, not just some human. He offers a polite greeting to the entire room. In the corner, Lady Claire watches with a small, hopeful smile. Then Lord Richard drops a bombshell. Rob isn't from this kingdom, or even this world. He was summoned here just 1 week ago. You can see the elders' faces shift as they process this impossible claim, whispering among themselves. Finally, one of them leans forward. Rob the human. He asks what a cataclysm is. Rob shrugs. He honestly doesn't know, but it sounds like nothing but bad news. Then comes the test. Currency. Dollars, Rob answers. After a few more rapid-fire questions, the council sinks back into a heated debate. The Inquisitor nods, thanking him for his honesty. She tells the others his story seems legitimate, so they'll assume he's telling the truth, for now. But there's a catch. He needs to understand the gravity of his situation, because the council is about to tell him exactly what the humans of this realm did to them. The elder matriarch looks him dead in the eye, her voice cold. Why, she asks, should I even think twice about sparing your life? Rob doesn't blink. He says he could offer an apology on behalf of all humanity, but it would be empty, and everyone in that room knows it. He explains there are 2 very specific reasons why he won't give a fake apology. First, he wasn't there. He can't even begin to fathom the agony they suffered, and trying to apologize for it would be a total insult. And the second reason is exactly the same. He wasn't there. Sure, he's human, but he wasn't part of the Great Cleansing. He flat-out refuses to shoulder the guilt of monsters he never even knew. The elder narrows her eyes. If we have no business with each other, then why are you standing before us now? Rob is blunt. If he can't go home, he wants to be part of their community. The elder just scoffs. She thinks he's a lamb seeking shelter from the wolves. Our boy admits it. It's true. But to him, this place is the closest thing to a home he has. It has roads, buildings, and real people. He adds that he can tell there are good people here, and honestly, he wants to become friends with them. He and the lady share a quick, knowing glance, both of them offering a small smile. Speaking from the heart, he tells them all he wants is a chance. The elders stare him down with overwhelming pressure, and suddenly his diplomacy skill hits level 2. Rob is stunned. Did he actually just pull that off? Their gaze softens, just a little. He starts to wonder if his words actually managed to convince Lord Richard. One elder suddenly claps his hands. A vibrant speech! Rob finally lets out a breath of relief, feeling the tension break. But then the hammer drops. It's tragic, the matriarch says, but I'm still voting for your execution. Rob's heart sinks as he curses his luck. She's dead serious. No matter how moving his argument was, she wants him dead. Period. He stays frosty. He knows they want him to snap and act like the vile human they expect. Instead, he calmly asks her why. She snaps. Just looking at him makes her want to scream and tear her hair out. His very existence is a walking reminder of everything she lost. And she's absolutely certain that many on this panel feel the exact same way. The elders look at each other, and Rob realizes if they follow her lead, it's game over. Goodbye, world, and goodbye to any chance of going home. Suddenly, another elder speaks up. He's voting for Rob to stay. Rob thinks, whoever this guy is, he's officially my new best friend. The matriarch is livid, demanding he explain why he'd side with a human. The old lord remains calm. Truth has been spoken. He'd already been considering letting Rob stay, and those words just sealed the deal. He argues that the human has much to teach them about his old world, and he seems to fit their society perfectly. She's fuming now. She accuses him of always having a soft spot for humans, basically calling it treason. The elder in the middle shuts them both down. Enough! They have something more urgent to discuss, his status effect. She tells him to read it out loud for the council. Rob senses a trap. This is getting dangerous. He looks to his new ally for support and reads it out. Same as yesterday, melancholy hope. And his leveling rate, it's hit high. Rob catches their expressions and panics. Did he just insult someone or break some ancient taboo? The elder sighs. Looking at Rob's face, it's clear he doesn't grasp the sheer gravity of a high-leveling skill. Rob remembers Claire mentioning this before. Is that why she was so worried? Is high-leveling actually a death sentence? One of the knights asks the old lord to explain the danger to the boy. He explains that in this realm, every living thing is driven to grow. It's the nature of the world. Leveling brings power. And who doesn't want power? Every sentient being wants to level up, but for humans, it's different. He corrects himself. For a human, it isn't just a goal, it's an obsession. Rob feels a chill. Was that what that strange hunger was? He goes on. For a human, the thirst for leveling overrides everything else in existence. Not food, not love, nothing matters once they get a taste of it. To Rob, it sounds exactly like a dangerous drug. The Archmage cuts him off with the cold truth. The bloodlust affliction is already etched into his status. It's not a warning. The effects have already taken hold. Arthur is spiraling, pure, unadulterated panic. He realizes the horrifying truth. Leveling up feels good. No, it feels dangerously, intoxicatingly incredible. In fact, it's a rush of pure euphoria like nothing he has ever experienced in his entire life. Sir Valerius is baffled, demanding to know how this happened when Arthur was a mere level 1 only a week ago. The elder leans in, asking for his current rank. Level 10, he admits. The elder's expression darkens. Humans truly are terrifyingly fast learners. She looks him over, knowing that kind of growth requires a lot of killing. She saw his hesitation before, but now Arthur looks at Sir Valerius and feels a chill. He almost did it. He almost struck down Valerius just for the experience points. Reality hits him like a sledgehammer. Back in the peaceful outer lands, he'd never even considered harming a soul, not even a common frog. The thought of violence was completely alien to him, and now, he's terrified of what he's becoming. In absolute agony, he begs to know how to purge this curse. But the elder gives it to him straight. Once it's on your soul's record, it's permanent. It never leaves. The Archmage explains that at level 10, it's still manageable, but as his power grows, the compulsion will become an unstoppable hunger. This is exactly why the kingdom of 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 sends the afflicted to the frozen northern wastes, to fight until they finally drop dead. Arthur shudders, whispering that he could never let himself go that far. She doesn't let up, explaining that everyone says that until the addiction robs them of their reason, replacing peace with an insatiable thirst for violence. Another elder sneers, refusing to trust the corruption on his sheet. She won't risk having someone in their peaceful village who might snap and go on a bloodthirsty rampage. Shaking and completely broken, Arthur looks her in the eye and gives her his permission. If I lose it, take me down. He adds a chilling condition, only if she sees the moment he truly starts to lose his humanity. He looks at the permanent skill on his status and hardens his gaze. Pointing at the knight, he declares that if he fails to control it, Sir Valerius can end him. The Archmage asks if he's truly ready for that. Arthur just nods. He refuses to become a monster that hurts innocent people. Valerius speaks up, reminding them he saw the boy slay the great forest lord and jump 4 levels in a single heartbeat. He's still keeping his growth in check, but the Archmage warns that such a massive jump would normally push any human straight into a psychotic break. Valerius adds that somehow, this kid is fighting the urge and keeping his skills under a moderate lid. The Lady Elder snaps, asking if Valerius is actually taking the human side now, but he just shrugs. He's just stating the facts. Arthur makes a mental note to bake a massive pie for the level 48 elder later. That guy just saved his skin. Time to vote, the elder commands. The Archmage doesn't hesitate. He votes for Arthur to stay. Another elder joins him, but then the tide turns. A vote for death. Then Lady Isabella agrees that a human like him simply doesn't belong in Havenbrook. Arthur's heart is pounding against his ribs. It's tied. Only one vote remains. The final elder sighs, noting that the village is already struggling with the spreading corruption, and this boy is just more fuel for the fire. Suddenly, clang, a sword strikes the floor. Lady Alara is fuming. She's tired of watching this scripted little drama play out. She shouts that he's proven his good intentions over and over. But the elder scoffs, claiming Alara hasn't seen the true brutality of humans on the front lines. Alara fires back. She wasn't there, but her parents were, and they taught her to judge a man by his heart, not his status sheet. The elder's voice drops to a low growl, warning her to watch her tone before she goes too far. What are you going to do? Alara snaps. Fine me, my wages are already a joke. Arthur looks at his friend and mumbles, It's true. Alara blinks, confused, and he repeats that it really bothers him how little she gets paid. She's the hardest worker he knows, a true pillar of the community. But honestly, it mostly bothers him because it clearly bothers her. If she didn't care, he wouldn't, but she does. Arthur scoffs at himself. Surprise, everyone, look at that. I'm actually capable of basic empathy. He tells the council that if they paid her fairly, she could actually have a home she's proud of. Even though he thinks her cottage is lovely, Alara turns bright red, begging him to stop talking about her house in front of everyone. The elder finally smiles. That simple spark of compassion, that's exactly what she was waiting to see. With a final nod, she welcomes Arthur to the village. A few days later, a somber ritual begins under the twilight sky. Sir Valerius stands in the center of the clearing, facing the village and the body of 𝒂𝒓𝒚. He speaks of the fallen rangers of the Greenwood Guard. He tells them that 𝒂𝒓𝒚 brought a light to their ranks that no one else could, and everyone felt her fierce need to protect. Arthur watches from the shadows, remembering his grandmother's funeral, the last time he stood at a grave. He's honestly shocked they even let him attend. He feels the weight of the moment, wanting to say something, anything. Valerius asks if anyone has final words. As the night approaches, a shadow falls over Arthur. It's him, the elder who took his side. Arthur looks up, realizing the old man is right there. The elder speaks softly, telling him that her death, it wasn't his fault. The old Earl claims he is always ready to stand for a comrade. He's not blaming her, not at all, but then he drops a question. Does she know why this hamlet has no name? Cedric had been wondering that himself. The Earl sighs. It's a messy tale of red tape and lost history. He explains that the Great Scourge didn't just kill people. It erased their entire way of life. Every soul here, every orphan of the war, came from one of the 5 fallen duchies. Now, only the highborn remain. Then came the deadlock. No one could agree on a name for their new sanctuary, and the silence just lasted. Clara pushes away the handkerchief. The Earl continues. Everyone wanted to name the village after the home they lost. But the bitter truth, everyone there had lost something different. So the village stayed nameless. They built new families from the wreckage, only to start losing those too. Clara whispers that they weren't kin by blood, but Julian was her brother. 2 broken fragments finding a way to be whole together. She collapses to her knees. What do I do now? She cries, now that he's gone. Cedric feels that sharp sting of grief. He moves to help, but the elder stops him. Let her weep. She's hollow now. Cedric watches from the shadows, sharing that heavy silence. A bit later, they begin the somber march to the churchyard. Cedric shoulders the weight of the casket. He looks at her, but Clara just snaps that she's fine. Don't ask. He gets it, though. If that were his friend Thomas in there, he wouldn't even be able to stand, let alone say goodbye. A chilling thought crosses his mind. He wonders, did Julian always have that strange, dark mark on his face? Then panic. The boy's eyes snap open. Cedric freezes. Is this a nightmare? Sir Gareth's face says it all, it's real. Clara screams his name. Julian is on the dirt, twitching and thrashing like a dying animal. She lunges forward, but Cedric hauls her back. Don't, he yells. Look at him, that is not Julian anymore. Something foul is crawling under the skin. Cedric draws his steel, staring at the parasite. What is this thing? A carrion crawler, Gareth spits. They belong in the dungeons, and they're swarming toward the village right now. Look at the sky. Flesh-eating crows everywhere, levels 4 to 28. Total chaos. Cedric tells Gareth to go, the village needs him. The knight hesitates, but Cedric barks. We've got this, go. Just get her home. Then Julian stands, or rather the monster does. Clara is shaking, watching her friend transform. The creature lets out a bone-chilling roar and lunges straight for the grieving girl. Clara begs him to stop, but Cedric's already moving. Sorry, Clara, he's gone, he strikes. Watch out for those worms. The beast, the thing that wore Julian's face, screams and tackles Cedric with terrifying speed. It slams him down hard, right against a cold stone monument, knocking the wind out of him. Clara's voice is trembling. Julian, it's me. It's Clara. She's sobbing, hoping for a spark of recognition. The monster just twists, a literal mass of worms consuming the boy's body. Clara begs him to stop this madness. But Cedric is back up. He grabs the beast from behind. Not so fast, ugly. This thing is pure muscle. It tosses Cedric aside like a rag doll, then hauls him up by the throat. It starts choking the life out of him. A massive, revolting worm slithers out of its maw, reaching for his face. Cedric is losing. Suddenly, 𝑺𝒕𝒓𝒖𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔. Clara drives her blade clean through her old friend, her eyes blurring with tears. I'm so sorry, she sobs. With one brutal swing, she nearly cleaves the monster in 2. Cedric hits the grass, gasping for air. Clara falls to her knees, the tears finally overflowing. A final, agonizing goodbye. Rest now, she whispers. Cedric stays by her side, offering what little comfort he can. She thanks him. Cedric just shrugs, that's what friends are for. The elder watches, noting they were the target. The monsters flew straight for the heart of the village. They're hunting the source of their power. Can these mindless things actually coordinate? Gareth reports that the human and Clara made it back alive. The infection took Julian in seconds. It's clear, the Hearthstone's protection is fading fast. Gareth tries to stay positive, but the elder isn't buying it. How much time do they really have? The Rangers are decimated. They have to train the juniors now. Clara is a force, sure, but she's dangerous. Then the elder's eyes land on Cedric. What about the boy? He's one of us now, Gareth says. Let's train him. He's strong, but he could be a legend. The screen flickers, level 10, attributes rising. Cedric walks through the town with a new spark in his eyes. Welcome home. Those 3 words, the most beautiful thing Robert had ever heard in his entire life. He waves back, thinking, hey, look at that, nobody's even throwing chairs at me yet. But Lady Clara is urgent. Keep moving, she snaps. Robert blinks. Wait, why? Because things are about to get ugly, she warns. Behind them, Lord Dunstan, the village elder, bellows for Clara to hurry up. They reach the manor, and she shoves him through the threshold. Then, bam, the old man slams the heavy oak door shut behind them. Clara peeks through the shutters, let out a breath. They're backing off, she whispers. For now, at least. Sir Richard sighs. The word is out, there's a human in the village. Suddenly, Clara collapses to the floor. Hey, you okay? Robert asks, panic rising. She just shakes her head. I'm fine. Robert isn't buying it. Right, sure you are. You look terrible, he mutters. She fires back, reminding him there's a literal hungry mob outside and he's only alive because a funeral distracted them. Robert shrugs, shouting and fists. He can handle that. Then he softens his voice. Do you want to talk about what happened to Lady Millicent? No, she shuts it down. Sir Richard speaks up then, agreeing with Robert. No one should have to say goodbye to a friend like that. He even apologizes for not being able to do more. She looks away, her expression heavy with grief. It's all right, she whispers. I'll go out and calm the mob, she says. Sir Richard offers to join her. If she needs to talk while they work, he's listening. The knight gives a small nod of thanks. Now it's just Robert and the elder. Lord Dunstan is staring at him with such intensity that Robert feels like a bug under a magnifying glass. It's seriously unnerving. Finally, the old man breaks the silence. Tell me, what do you call the world you came from? Earth, Robert answers, feeling a bit awkward. Dunstan's eyes widen in pure shock. Earth, so that makes you an earthling, then. I guess it does, Robert mutters, a bit embarrassed. The elder leans in, his eyes gleaming. I have so many questions for you, boy. Actually, I've got a few for you too, Robert counters. Dunstan chuckles. Of course, I am Lord Dunstan. It's going to be a long night. How about we head to the library? They make their way through the halls and arrive at the archives. Thank you for defending our home, Dunstan says. Robert shakes his head. I was happy to help, but let's be real. Clara did all the heavy lifting. I was the one being rescued. Dunstan smiles. Your world is a mystery to me, just as mine is to you. Think of me as your resource. Robert looks around at the stone walls. This place is incredible, honestly. It really is. He walks over to an old globe and points to a random spot. But a part of me, it still just wants to find a way back home. Dunstan's face falls. I'm afraid that's the one thing I can't help with. Your arrival in 𝒂𝒂𝒔. It's completely unprecedented. Robert's heart sinks. What about my friend? He was almost pulled in with me. Do you think he's okay? I'm sure he's fine, Dunstan reassures him. The portal likely snapped shut the moment you were caught. Robert knows he's just being kind, but he nods anyway. I hope you're right. Dunstan offers a small smile. I'll check the ancient scrolls. Maybe there's something I've forgotten. Thank you, Robert says, genuinely grateful. But there's something else. I have 10 attribute points, and I have no clue what to do with them. Back in his world, people don't have levels or visible stats. It's all complete gibberish to him. Dunstan laughs. Ah, the noble art of min-maxing. I completely understand your concern. Wait, an RPG term? How does he even know that? Robert's confused. Then Dunstan asks, it's a bit intrusive, but may I see your character sheet? Is that considered private here in 𝒂𝒂𝒔? Robert asks. Clara asked to see mine 5 minutes after we met. Just then, the door opens and the others return. Of course she did, Sir Richard chuckles. The two are back from their mission, and the girl looks a little shy. Dunstan asks about the mob, and the knight says they're finally gone. Sir Richard just looked at them, Clara admits, and they scattered. Clara shrugs. I don't get the secrecy. Anyone with identification can see your level anyway. Dunstan turns to her. And why is your strength at 55? It was 50 yesterday. Sir Richard sighs. She dumped points into strength, again. Clara defends herself. Hey, my build works well. You rely way too much on your danger sense, Richard counters. You need vitality, Clara. Dunstan nods. I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm seeing a similar problem here. Don't take this as an insult, the elder says. But Robert, do you realize you can put points into things other than the basics? Robert sighs. Look, things happened fast. I was panicking. I would have done anything just to survive. Dunstan understands. Fair enough, but I wouldn't recommend touching magic. To be a real mage, you have to invest heavily in magic and mind from the very start. Robert slumps. So, no fireballs for me. Dunstan noticed his disappointment. Is magic that highly coveted in your world? Robert nods. People would give anything for it. There's no magic on Earth. The old man is shocked people would go to such lengths. Robert explains their only magic is pulling coins out of children's ears. Dunstan's eyes go wide. That's incredible. You must be a very rich man. Finally, the elder gives his advice. If I were you, put those points into perception. It'll sharpen your senses and make you notice every little detail. This should help his training alongside the young squires under Sir Cedric's command. They ask if he's actually serious, and the high elf simply replies that his duty begins at dawn. Robin asks if this officially makes him a ranger, but Clara quickly shuts that down with a sharp no. He thanks Lord Lawrence for the chance while offering his apologies to Cedric. The high elf gazes out, quietly stating he's perfectly satisfied with the difficult choices he's made throughout his long life. Elder Thorn explains that he'll have the chance to officially change his class to ranger once he stands before the ancient crystal. This choice will grant him untold power and shift his destiny forever, so he shouldn't rush it. Robin, he just wants to decide what's for dinner. When asked about his dexterity, the old man explains it's the key to his speed and lightning-fast reflexes. He wonders if raw strength wouldn't make his legs more powerful and thus faster, but both elves shut him down instantly. Absolute no. Thorn notes that, for someone with such massive vitality, his mind attribute is actually surprisingly high. He explains his mind was already at 19 when he arrived, and Cedric remarks only a human would have such an odd advantage. Thorn figures he was a man of high culture back in his own world. Feeling pretty good about that, he realizes the old man basically called him a genius, a compliment he's definitely never heard before. He tries to stay humble, saying he's no genius, just a guy with a standard education in math and history. The elder's eyes go wide at the mention of math. Look at that face. He realizes the old man truly believes he's some sort of once-in-a-generation mastermind. Thorn gets visibly excited, saying it would be a godsend to have someone who could finally double-check his messy accounting books. He slides the ledger over, and Robin takes one look, immediately pointing out that a certain line should actually be 60,000. Suddenly, the interface pings. He's just gained the mathematics skill, and his problem-solving speed gets a nice little boost. As he keeps flipping through the pages, his mathematics skill shoots up, hitting level 4 in record time. But then, ouch, he clutches his head as a notification appears. His leveling skill is still stubbornly stuck at medium rank. He curses the damn thing in his head, telling it to stay at medium forever. Clara notices him struggling and asks if he's all right. He jokes that he's just worried about the whole, becoming a bloodthirsty monster, thing, then asks if he can use the library to do some solo research. Thorn agrees but warns him that everything is written in Sylvan. Robin just sighs, apologizing and admitting he was never much of a Tolkien fan. The elder explains that translation is a rare skill unlocked by a high mind stat and hours of study. Robin smiles. He's always been a bit of a bookworm. A little while later, you can find him buried in books at the library table. The elder stays by his side to help guide him through the texts. Robin is putting in some serious work, and it feels like it's finally paying off. Suddenly, those incomprehensible Sylvan runes on the page start to shift, becoming clearer with every passing second. But then, pure agony. He wonders why it feels like his brain is literally melting. Clara jumps up, shouting that something is wrong with his nose. It's a total bloodbath. The interface screams a warning. He's just taken 9 points of localized damage directly to his brain. Clara panics, begging Elder Thorn to cast a healing spell immediately, while the interface reports another 15 points of brain damage. Robin wonders if he's actually learning to translate, or just having a massive aneurysm as he takes another 23 damage to his head. The two elves watch in pure horror. Yeah, it's definitely an aneurysm. Another 35 points of damage hit him like a hammer. Everything starts fading to black as he takes a final, devastating 51 points of brain damage. Confusing error messages flash across his vision, but right at the finish line, he officially gains the automatic translation skill. The interface displays his character sheet, but the stats are all scrambled. Everything is being completely reconfigured. A coin spins through the air. Someone whispers that this moment will decide the fate of all humanity, urging the others to place their bets. 3 mysterious figures appear. One asks if this is for real, while another simply can't believe what's unfolding. The coin hits the ground, showing its face. One of them remarks that it looks like Lady Luck is firmly on the boy's side. Later, our hero is resting in a quiet house. The interface confirms no permanent brain damage and offers a system error apology, granting him +1 to his mind stat. He finally opens his eyes as he hits level 11, pocketing 5 brand new attribute points. Still stuck on the couch, he thinks he just wanted to read a book, but the interface confirms he's now mastered Sylvan translation. The whole thing felt like watching computer code. He starts to worry if he's actually trapped inside some kind of twisted virtual world. Right on cue, the interface pings a direct message. This is definitely not a virtual world. He bolts upright, looking around for the source of that voice. Clara rushes over, thanking the gods he's awake and asking if he remembers her. He gives her a weak smile, calling her Clara and saying it's good to see a friendly face for once. She snaps back that he had serious brain damage and that her face is never friendly. Just ask anyone in the village. Robin admits he isn't quite sure what happened but apologizes for the scare. She looks at him, asking if he truly doesn't remember anything. He just sighs and tells her he only remembers a whole lot of brain damage. Clara, totally exasperated, tells him he almost died and that it's no joking matter. Trembling, Claire whispers that she simply can't handle burying 2 friends in a single day. Robert offers a weak apology, saying humor is just his way of surviving. But hey, the mark gave him a clean bill of health. Unless the system is glitching, his brain is still in one piece. Claire sighs, muttering that it's a relief the Oracle's word is absolute law and never lies. Robert adds that the thing seems to have a pretty twisted sense of humor. Claire freezes, alarmed. You actually spoke to it. Our boy shrugs. He wouldn't call it a chat, but those notifications. They're dripping with pure sarcasm. Claire warns him to keep that quiet. Claiming the system talks to you is a one-way ticket to the asylum. Robert nods, point taken. Now, what exactly happened while he was out? It was total chaos, she explains. The high healer used his deep scan magic. And apparently, his mind was literally unraveling at its very core. Great, sounds lovely, Robert mutters. At least he got auto-translation as a consolation prize. Small wins, right? Claire mentions he's lucky Sir Roland found a healer so fast. Even half dead, Robert was moving like a man possessed. But there's a bigger problem now. She points toward the window. There's a massive crowd gathering outside. It's a full-blown mob of angry high elves. Robert looks out and jokes that at least they haven't torched the place yet. Claire's face stays stone cold. Actually, they tried, Robert blinks. Wait, they really tried? She just nods. She tells him to stay put while she goes to fetch Lord Richard. He'll make those peasants scatter in no time. Robert tells her to take her time. He'll just catch up on some reading. Claire stares. He almost died and he wants a book. He just shrugs. He'll be fine. Better odds than he usually gets, anyway. He grabs a heavy tome titled The Chronicles of 𝒂𝒂𝒒𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 Claire promises to be back in a flash. If anything goes wrong, I'll scream like a child, Robert interrupts. She smiles. Perfect. Finally alone. He sits down, wondering if this book holds the secrets of the realm or if it's just another thing that's going to get him killed. He flips through the dusty pages until he finds the section on the Great Cataclysm. He reads until his eyes can't stay open, eventually passing out on the sofa while the mob outside screams that humans have no place in their kingdom. The chanting never stops. He wakes up wondering if they're still at it. What kind of magical caffeine are these people on? The insults keep flying through the walls. Robert stands up. Enough is enough. He heads to the window. The Oracle's terminal pops up, warning him that diplomacy is a terrible idea. Shut up, he mutters. You're not my boss. Outside, an elf spots him. He's awake, the crowd surges. Lord Richard just sighs at how creative their insults are getting. They watch from the porch as the mob breaks into rhythmic protest chants, all aimed at the filthy human blamed for everything. Suddenly, Robert swings the door wide open. Yo. Name's Robert, he shouts. Pleasure to meet you all. Love the rhymes, really very catchy. But now, shut your damn mouths. I need my sleep. He slams the door shut before they can even process the shock. Claire's actually smiling. Honestly, she'd have done the same. Richard adds he'll station a few junior knights to keep the peace. She pushes through the crowd, telling Richard to make sure they don't vandalize her walls. She's still paying the mortgage. If he needs her, she'll be inside. A few hours later. There's a guard at the door, but Robert is still wide awake. Claire passed out 2 hours ago. Man, he'd kill for his white noise app right now. Click, a noise, the back door is creaking open, slowly. Robert grabs his blade and creeps toward the sound. Where the hell is the guard? He spots a shadow, an elf, clutching a dagger, slipping into the house. Time for a status check. Robert activates his identification. It's a level 8 apprentice baker. Status, terrified, but determined. Well, time to say hello. The kid points the knife at him, hands shaking like a leaf. Robert just looks at him. Kid, you really want to do this? The boy screams and lunges. For Percy, this is for Felix. Robert just tosses a heavy blanket over his head. The kid slashes wildly, shredding the fabric, but when the blanket falls, the room is empty. A tap on his shoulder. Over here. The boy spins around, swinging again, but Robert dodges like it's nothing. Snap. Robert grabs his wrist, the dagger hits the floor, and he pins the kid to the wall. The boy just whimpers. Do it. Kill me quickly. You killed Felix, the boy cries. Now it's my turn. He's practically shaking with grief and rage. Suddenly, Claire bursts in, sword drawn. What the hell is going on? Robert just tosses the boy out the door. Do you always sleep with that thing? Claire ignores the question. Need help, but Robert's already heading out. Nah, I've got this. He looks down at the shivering boy on the ground. It's late, kid. Go home, wash your face, and get some sleep. Clara asks what that was all about, and Robert just shrugs, telling her it was nothing. Just a casual little assassination attempt. Really. He jokes that maybe he should start sleeping with his sword from now on. Walking away, he mutters for her to let the scary human kill a child and finally prove he's the monster they all think he is. But Clara catches his shoulder, insisting he's no monster. He doesn't answer, just keeps moving until he sits down, mentioning that he's been reading up on the Great Scourge. He knows the history. Humans were losing the war, so they built a massive magical doomsday weapon to wipe everything out. But apparently, they lost control of the damn thing and ended up vaporizing their own empire instead. Even if it's just elven propaganda, he asks her if she wants to know what's really messed up. The humans from his world are exactly the same, just with different ways to kill. He turns away on the couch, staring into nothing while Clara just watches him, concerned. Clara tells him everyone has a choice. That boy chose to try and kill him, but Robert. He didn't choose violence, he chose empathy. She tells him he's a kind man and hopes he can actually sleep knowing that, while the terminal shows his stats are tanking from pure exhaustion. Then it hits him, something actually important. He totally forgot to wash his feet, and the next morning, someone's already knocking to see if he's awake. Our hero looks like a complete zombie with massive dark circles, admitting he didn't catch a single wink of sleep. Clara admits she stayed up too, asking if he had nightmares, but he just smiles, joking that he was just waiting for more assassins to show up. She's not laughing, though, calling the attack a serious crime that needs to be reported to the authorities immediately. Robert tells her to drop it for now. It was just a kid who went too far, and he doesn't have the heart to be cruel to him. She gives him a wicked little smirk, saying that since he insists on making her life difficult, he better grab his hood and sword because they're heading to the High Crystal. When he asks why, she explains the big moment has arrived. It's time for him to finally choose his vocation. A while later, they're walking through the settlement, and he notices everyone is still giving him the "I want to kill you" glare, but Clara promises she'll handle anyone who tries. He's shocked, asking if she'd really risk exile for him, but she just laughs, saying he's massively overestimating her reputation. Honestly, it's impossible for these people to like her any less than they already do, and she's got no one left to disappoint anyway. Her parents are gone. Sir Richard is just a mentor, not a friend, and Miles was the very last person who actually cared about her. But since Miles is dead, Robert just smiles and tells her that his loneliness, status vanished the moment he met her. And that means, at the very least, there's one person in this world who truly likes having her around. Clara wonders if he just doesn't know the real her yet, reminding him she killed Miles twice, but he just calls her his third best friend, which makes her wonder if she's still ranked below his sword. He admits he's thinking of giving the blade a name, and the elf just sighs, begging him not to be that guy. Finally, they arrive, and seeing it up close, Robert is stunned by the sheer scale of the massive glowing crystal. Clara explains that no one knows its origin. It's just always been there, like some ancient gift from the gods themselves. It didn't take a single scratch from the great Scourge's explosion before being moved here, and Robert's tripped out that she knew exactly what he was going to ask. She teases him, claiming she can read his mind, before laughing and admitting she's just guessing, though she's certain she knows which vocation he'll pick. He asks if this is a permanent deal because, honestly, he's still totally undecided. She explains that you can change it later, but it's a bad move because it'll absolutely tank your progression speed. If he ever wants to hit level 50, his first choice really needs to be his definitive one. Robert asks about level 99, but she tells him that's a myth. Most non-combatants spend their whole lives and only hit level 19. He's surprised since Clara is level 28 and his age, but she points out she's fought more enemies than half the village combined. He suggests maybe picking the ranger path, thinking it might be a good way to get the locals to finally stop hating him. Clara agrees it's a solid choice, but she knows him better than that. She bets he's going to go full berserker. Our guy starts overthinking it, feeling awkward because he's trying really hard not to look like a bloodthirsty human monster. She just smiles, knowing he's going to cave and pick it anyway. Robert asks if there's a ritual, like clapping or singing, but she says it's simple. Just put your hand on the glass, no fancy stuff required. Then, he just has to confirm the choice, and the terminal pops up a notification that the vocation selection is starting. Looking at the list, most of these feel more like boring day jobs, and since he has no intention of dying anytime soon, he skips the peaceful stuff. He automatically tosses out all the magic paths because, let's face it, he already blew that chance in a spectacular way, and he's not feeling the pugilist life either. He knows how to scrap, but trying to punch monsters with just claws and teeth sounds like a one-way ticket to a grave. Seriously, what's the life expectancy for a guy who fights like a wild animal? Not long, probably. But then he sees the swordsman path and thinks, yeah, that's the one. He loves his blade, and he's already hit level 3 in it anyway. It's official, the choice is made. Looking at Robert's face, you can tell he's absolutely buzzing with the result. Clara asks the big question, which class did he go for? Robert just smirks, knowing she's already used her appraisal skill to snoop on his stats anyway. She rolls her eyes and admits that, just for the record. The berserker path actually suits his build perfectly. Robert thanks her while locking it in at the terminal. It's done. He's officially a berserker. Right away, he unlocks Lifesteal, a level 3 berserker skill that heals him for 25% of all damage he dishes out. Talk about sustain. But it doesn't stop there. He also grabs Battle Fever to skyrocket his stats and Blood for Blood, which pumps up his damage the lower his health points drop. He says it just feels right, like a furnace that finally found its fuel. Then he turns to Clara, wondering if she's feeling the vibe too. Clara just nods. It's settled. They need to move out because Sir Riordan is already waiting for them at the training grounds. Nearby, a group of young wood elves are running drills. Robert tries to use appraisal on one of them, but an elf snaps at him to stop being so damn rude. Clara steps in, pointing out that everyone's profiles are set to public while they're inside the village walls. No secrets here. Riordan calls for attention, introducing their newest recruit to the group. Surprise, surprise, the local elves aren't exactly thrilled to have a human in their ranks. Riordan acknowledges that Robert is an outsider, and Robert can feel the tension. This definitely isn't the warm welcome he was hoping for. Clara whispers that he shouldn't bother looking for friends here. This lot isn't big on smiling. Robert just grins back, telling her people say the same about her, but he knows she's got a smile hidden somewhere. Riordan steps in again, admitting there's bad blood between their people, but frankly, they're desperate for help and can't afford to be picky. One of the boys, Alaric, grumbles that humans only ever make things complicated. Riordan shuts him down fast and turns the heat up. He suggests Alaric should welcome Robert properly, with a little live training session. Robert tenses up. A real fight. He's never been in a scrap with a person before, but Clara reminds him he's already crushed hundreds of giant spiders. Riordan adds that he even took down the Forest Lord. The young elves gasp, "Wait, this human actually killed the Forest Lord." Robert's confused. He can read the Elvish script now, but the context, totally flying over his head. Alaric lets out a roar, shouting to bring the human. Robert doesn't need a translator for that one. The kid's eyes are screaming murder. Oh yeah, this guy definitely wants him dead. Riordan warns Alaric to show some respect. After all, these boys were the ones guarding Robert's room last night so he could sleep soundly. That's news to Robert. He realizes Alaric was one of his guards, but the elf just sneers. So what? Clara starts to call them idiots, looking like she's about to lose her cool. But Robert cuts her off. He's got this. Sword in hand, he asks if they're going to dance or actually train. Alaric just spits out the word human like a curse. Robert just nods. That's me, so what are the rules? A bell, a countdown. Boom, no warning. Alaric charges, sweeping Robert off his feet instantly. There are no countdowns in a real fight, and there never will be. Alaric swings a kick, but Robert rolls away. The elf growls, "Welcome to the frontier, kid. Some survive here." "And some don't." Alaric lunges with his blade, but the weapon snaps clean in half when it slams into the hard ground. Robert springs back up ready. He lowers his guard, telling the guy he's not going to fight an unarmed opponent. Alaric loses it. He hates being pitied, especially by a human. He screams at him not to look down on him. Robert says he's just trying to keep it fair, which is more than he can say for the elf. Alaric looks confused. "What the hell are you talking about?" While parrying the elf's frantic swings, Robert brings up last night again. Honestly, he's starting to think he should have picked the brawler class. With a sudden burst of speed, Robert counters, landing a heavy blow right into the elf's gut. But Alaric doesn't back down. He lunges forward, tackling Robert and slamming him hard against the dirt. He screams that humans are all liars who only know how to hurt people. Robert realizes this kid doesn't just hate him. He's got massive trust issues. Still defending, Robert grunts back that at least he's not the one trying to commit cold-blooded murder. Alaric is losing control, just raining down blows until Clara steps in. Riordan roars for them to knock it off. Enough is enough. Riordan demands to know what's going on, and Robert stands his ground. This kid tried to kill me in my sleep last night. He points a finger right at Alaric. Someone wanted me out of the picture. Alaric is fuming now, calling it a classic human lie just to save face, because he was losing the fight. Clara turns to Alaric, asking if there's any truth to the claim. Alaric just scoffs. Is the human so pathetic he has to hide behind your skirts? Riordan just sighs. This whole situation. It's becoming an absolute nightmare, and he's clearly exhausted by the drama. He looks at Robert, voice steady, but tired. Do you actually have any proof to back up these accusations? Arthur isn't holding back. He tells the commander that some masked freak tried to end him last night. And get this, the elven guard actually let the assassin walk right through the door. Lord Raven, the supervisor, isn't amused and double-checks the story, leaving Tristan sweating buckets as he tries to figure out a lie that won't get him executed. Speaking in the elder tongue so the human can't understand, Valen snaps at his friend to shut his mouth before he makes things worse, admitting they're both already guilty as sin. Finally, Valen takes a deep breath, steps into the light, and confesses that the whole security disaster was entirely his responsibility. As Raven demands the truth, and Lady Kalia burns a hole through them with her gaze, we flash back to the night before where Tristan is trying to wake a snoring Valen. Waking up in a total daze, Valen realizes the sun is up, and Tristan casually mentions that he basically slept through his entire guard shift. Valen panics, asking exactly how long he was unconscious, but Tristan just shrugs because he literally just walked into the room himself. This means our boy Arthur was a sitting duck for hours, left completely unguarded, while literally anyone could have waltzed in and finished him off. Terrified of the consequences, Valen suggests they go check on their guest, immediately to see if he's even still breathing. Tristan's even more scared, saying he doesn't want the High King finding out they failed, especially since the king is looking for a new monster to throw into the pits. Lord Raven cuts the story short with a roar, asking if they think this is some kind of joke, before calling them the most irresponsible knights he's ever seen. For what feels like an eternity, the commander gives the due a verbal beatdown that would make a dragon flinch, absolutely fuming at their sheer incompetence. The catch, the whole argument is happening in the ancient language, so Arthur is just standing there like a confused tourist, not understanding a single word. Lady Kalia eventually takes pity and summarizes the mess for him, and Arthur is actually impressed by how much of a wild plot twist this is. The commander offers a formal apology for the guard's behavior, but our hero plays it cool. He says since nobody died and it wasn't personal, he'll consider it water under the bridge. Lord Raven is completely baffled by the water under the bridge comment, forcing Arthur to explain that it's just a common saying from his own kingdom. We're all good, Arthur adds, looking the two guards dead in the eye, except for the tiny detail where one of you actually broke my nose. Valen gives Tristan a sharp shove to make him apologize properly, and the boy finally does it, looking way more relieved than he should be. Arthur accepts the apology, but asks for some ice for the swelling. Kalia just rolls her eyes and reminds him that healing magic exists, something he totally forgot was an option. Feeling a bit silly, the young man activates his life surge spell and starts inspecting his reflection to see if the magic actually works. A second later, his face is good as new. All right, fresh start, Arthur says. Now that I know none of you were actually hired to kill me, let's try this again. It's truly a pleasure to meet you all, he says with a grin, trying to keep things civil in this strange new world. But the elven students are standing there with their jaws on the floor, absolutely stunned that a human has a level 4 regeneration skill. They're desperate to know his vitality stats. It's a fair question, honestly. Lady Alara chimes in, claiming it must be the sheer luxury of having the fast learner, trait that humans are famous for. Lord Raven asks for clarification, and Kalia explains that it's just human nature to level up and hoard skills at a pace that makes every other race look like they're standing still. And yeah, that's exactly why everyone hates them. Arthur can barely swing a sword without tripping, yet he's already hit level 11. Most people grind for years to get regeneration, but this guy somehow skipped all the requirements and is using it like it's second nature. Arthur stands there wondering if he was just complimented or insulted, but he figures he should probably just say thanks and move on. 𝒂𝒓𝒚 scoffs, thinking our boy has had a literal cakewalk since arriving in this world, but he's quick to list his trauma, starting with the wolf that ripped his arm off. Then there was the time he plummeted off a jagged cliff and had to claw his way back from the brink of death through sheer willpower. And let's not forget the third day, when the great forest beast slapped him so hard his head nearly snapped off a tree. "No hardship, you say?" Arthur asks the elf. The girl screams back that she lost her entire bloodline, trying to prove that her tragedy is the only one that actually matters here. Unimpressed, Arthur casually reminds her that her family issues aren't his fault, especially since he didn't exactly sign up for this portal trip. In a blind rage, she launches a kick straight into his face, and the system chime confirms he took a massive hit, though the blood on the floor made that pretty obvious. Lord Raven finally steps in to kill the drama before someone actually dies. He barks that this is a sanctuary for elite training, not a back alley brawl, and stares down Alara until she finally looks away. While watching Arthur and 𝒂𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔, who looked ready to draw steel and join the fight, Alara just gives a smug little smirk and says she understands perfectly. The 48-year-old commander decides everyone needs to cool off, announcing they're switching from combat training to a grueling circuit course. As he walks away, he leaves them with a terrifying warning. If he has to come back because of this group again, they'll all be on sewer scrubbing duty for a month. 𝒂𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔 sighs, explaining that the highborn students can be a nightmare to handle, and asks if Arthur is still in one piece. She offers to show him the grounds, while his face finishes mending, and soon they're watching a young elven prodigy practicing his archery. When 𝒂𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔 introduces the boy, Arthur does a double take. That kid looks way too familiar to be a stranger. Our hero realizes he saw the boy hiding in the great forest with another girl. The young archer blushes, admitting he only saw Arthur for 2 seconds before he ran for his life. 𝒂𝒄𝒄, the archer, admits nervously that the wildling knight looks a lot less scary when he isn't covered in blood and forest grime. Arthur laughs it off, and 𝒂𝒈𝒈𝒍𝒆𝒔 moves him along to meet the next student in the lineup. Meet 𝒂𝒓𝒚, the deadliest knight in the kingdom and easily the coolest person here. She points out that Robin has already crossed paths with those 2 slackers lounging in the corner. She lets him know their names are Victor and Tristan. Specifically the thug who broke Robin's nose. They are complete tools, sure, but honestly, they are damn good at what they do. Robin notices a student with brown hair, totally weird for a highborn noble, but Lady Catherine whispers that it is better to keep that secret to themselves. The warrior explains his grandfather was actually human. Robin realizes the grudge this noble holds probably comes straight from his father, which honestly makes sense. Some of Victor's family died during the Great Scourge, so this is way deeper than just some inherited daddy issues. Victor was his brother-in-arms, and the 2 of them are basically inseparable best friends. Suddenly, whack, a dagger flies through the air and buries itself in the timber wall, right next to our hero's head. Alice apologizes, claiming her hand slipped by accident, while Robin goes into a total panic. Catherine sighs, explaining that girl is her least favorite person in the entire village. Noticing Robin getting shaky, the woman tells him to just let it go. Fighting her is pointless. She won't even give him any experience points. The noble girl sneers, asking if our boy is ready for another round of target practice. And Robin, he ignores every single warning. He snaps back that the girl is clearly begging for a fight. But then, total twist, he just raises his arms and surrenders. The boy turns to Catherine behind him and asks if she would like to handle this mess instead. Absolutely living for the suggestion, Catherine snaps her fingers with a wicked grin. She says it would be an absolute pleasure. In a flash, Catherine strikes, slamming the girl into the dirt. And then, she does it again, sending her crashing back down to the floor. Robin can't believe he just unleashed Lady Catherine like a literal war dog. He begs to be reminded never, ever to wake up that side of her again. Robin mumbles that, honestly, it really did seem like a brilliant idea at the time. But then the noble lady lands a massive punch right in the other girl's face. Robin is actually a little terrified by the sheer violence. He realizes this isn't even about him anymore. Catherine admits he is right. Those two girls really don't need an excuse to scrap. Tristan mocks him, asking if he plans to hide behind girls forever. Robin challenges him to go again, but a sudden scream stops everyone cold. With a shaky voice, Robin suggests they finish this later. Tristan, looking just as spooked, quickly agrees and says fine. The beaten-up noble calls Catherine a bloodthirsty beast, asking if this fight was just an excuse for her to go wild. Catching Catherine off guard, Alice headbutts her and screams that it is no wonder Mary died. She claims Catherine was too blinded by bloodlust to save her friend, throwing her down. But Catherine? She snaps, screaming for her to shut up while punching her face in. Once again, Catherine is on top of her. Alice sneers that Catherine thinks they hate her for ignoring the ranger's call. But that is not it. It is because everyone knows she only cares about herself and no one else. Commander Richard grabs her arm, growling that she seems to have forgotten what he said about attempted murder. Catherine tries to blame Alice, but the commander shouts that it does not matter who started what or how Alice wronged her. The truth is, the village cannot survive internal damage. He explains that her reckless actions could literally cost everyone their lives. He asks what happens if they are attacked while Alice is injured. They are supposed to be healers and scouts in a crisis. Richard delivers the hammer. Catherine is officially suspended from all training until further notice. She is moved to patrol duty where senior knights can watch her. She glares at Robin, calling him the teacher's little pet. Turning to Robin, Richard says he clearly cannot defend himself. He is ordered into double training and extra hours with Master Duncan. Richard growls that he has spoiled them all far too much. If they do not improve fast, they are as good as dead out there. He orders everyone back to work. Catherine whispers that if anyone lays a finger on him, just say the word and she will handle them. She even offers to guard his door tonight, but Robin insists he will be fine and tells her not to worry. At least, that is what he hopes, as he feels the entire camp watching his every move. Later on, they are practicing archery, but our hero is doing terrible. Suddenly, an arrow zips right past his ear. Alice just smirks. Oops. A while later, Robin excitedly asks if he is finally going to learn some real magic. But the elder says no. He is there to ask questions. He shows a board covered in notes about the land, punishment geography lessons. On another day, our hero spars with Tristan, defending himself as best he can against the onslaught. Suddenly, clang, his sword goes flying. Tristan laughs, saying he should be glad they are not using real steel blades today. Then he is back with the old man, who is holding a hairdryer and asking how on earth you are supposed to cook with this thing. Days turn into weeks, and everyone is stuck back in the grueling training cycle. Robin is beyond exhausted when two nobles suddenly circle around him. Once again, his sword is disarmed, and he is facing down a new challenger. Bam! Next thing we know, Robert's eating dirt after a brutal strike. The magical screen mocks him. Congratulations, you run like a nimble elven child. He gains 1 stamina and tells the screen to shove it. It pings again. Fleet of foot skill unlocked, dexterity up. Robert's not impressed. Bribery won't change the fact he thinks he's trash. Back with the elders, they're curious. Does he actually understand this mystical video game ledger? Robert nods, but when Lord Darwin asks if this world is just a game to him, he's dead serious. No, it's real, violent, strange, and very much real. He's been through too much to think it's anything else. Look, he wouldn't have picked this life if he had a choice. Not a chance. But he's here now, and that's what counts. The elder steps up, offering a towel. Take this, lad. Press it to your shoulders when you can stand. Surprised, Robert thanks him. He's starting to think that even if he's not who he wants to be yet, as he prepares to draw his bow, maybe he can become someone worth knowing. Boom, archery skill acquired. Finally, he can't help but celebrate. The elder's eyes light up. Beautiful, he whispers, then asks Robert to explain that theory of germs again. The grind continues. Days pass with Robert training like a man possessed, while Lady Alize watches from the shadows. She turns away, admitting it was a solid match. Robert admires his blade, his body trembling with exhaustion. A bit later, he's all smiles, catching a blade midair and hurling it back at Alize, leaving her completely stunned. Lord Darwin is still obsessed. "Wait! Tiny invisible things live inside us." Robert explains germ theory and the importance of hygiene. The old man starts panicking. "Pardon me, I need a bath. A very vigorous one." Meanwhile, back at training, Robert actually manages to disarm Sir Tristan in a duel. Blade to the throat. "Yield," he commands. Later, alone in the yard, he's still perfecting his swordplay. Sir Roland watches from afar, impressed by the work ethic. But there's one thing he's been wondering. He asks about the sword. Robert jokes, "You mean my third best friend?" Roland's eyes narrow. "Is that masterwork dwarven steel?" Robert just smiles. "Should I even know what that is?" Roland ignores the sass, noting the balance is absolutely perfect. He explains that dwarven blades are legendary. No rust, no dulling, sharp as a hurricane's edge. But then the warning, "Don't get cocky. A sword is only as good as the knight swinging it." Robert blinks. Was that the knight's weird way of saying good job? Nearby, Clara asks if he's sure. Roland just needs to see it for himself. They need to move fast. Clara's shocked. The dark crypt she found with Myra is growing rapidly. Roland knows the score. They have to purge it before the monsters start pouring out. Too late. A deafening roar echoes through the woods. A massive, infected beast comes charging right at them. Level 36, an enraged minotaur. The duo scrambles to put some distance between them and those horns. "We have to take this thing alone," Roland says. Clara's terrified. Is that even possible? He just tells her to get ready. The monster swings. They barely dive out of the way of a bone-crushing impact. Time for combat. Clara draws her steel, screaming at the beast as she activates her circle of death. She goes in, hacking at the creature without an ounce of mercy. But the minotaur catches her with a massive punch. Direct hit. She hits the ground hard. It charges for the kill, but suddenly something hits the beast from behind, sending it flying. There's Roland, perched high in a tree with his bow, already reaching for another arrow from his quiver. The minotaur sees him and loses it, charging the tree in a blind fury. Clara isn't done. She vaults over the beast, driving her sword deep into its leg. The monster roars in agony. It turns, but Roland's already airborne, leaping from the branches to strike. He lands right on it just as Clara yanks her blade and repositions. The beast drops to its knees, and Clara prepares for the finale. Roland jumps clear, shouting, "Now do it." Clara's blade sinks deep into the monster's torso, right over the infection. One final roar and it's over. The ledger confirms the kill. Roland nods. "Good work, but honestly, could you have made an even bigger mess?" Clara rolls her eyes. "Sorry it wasn't elegant enough for you." Then a chilling scream stops them cold. Out of the crypt comes a level 50 griffin, a level 42 three-headed dog, and a level 53 basilisk. Lady Pearl is hiding, trembling. "There's too many." Roland's face goes grim. They have to retreat and defend the village. Total chaos in the hamlet. The alarm bell is screaming through the air, and everyone's losing it. Arthur's just standing there in the middle of the street, eyes wide, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Meanwhile, a massive crowd is swarming the Heartstone in the center of the square. Arthur pushes through the panic, asking what everyone is shouting about. Victor looks pale as a ghost. He says the High Elders are actually channeling the Aegis shields, something he's never seen them do in his entire life. Tristam is already calling it. We're all gonna die. Then Clara shows up, looking like she crawled out of a grave, grumbling about how she didn't even have time for a bath. Arthur's worried sick. He asks if that blood is hers. She just shakes her head. They ran into a massive minotaur while they were out on patrol. Lord Roland steps up, looking dead serious. The abyssal rift has become so unstable it's manifesting nightmares into our world. We have to move, and we have to move now. Everyone's just holding their breath. And then, Exactly like he said. Creatures with unimaginable power are marching straight for our gates. We're talking minotaurs, griffins, absolute nightmare fuel. These are beasts you only read about in dark fairy tales. Roland says it's our duty as sentinels to drive them back, but we have to strike the source to stop this madness. That's why he's putting together an elite suicide squad to dive into the rift and end this once and for all. Arthur sees the commander looking his way and prays he isn't about to say it. Kiara starts to speak, but Arthur's like, "Please tell me it's not us." She just gives him a look, no promises. Victor's actually hyped for this. He shouts out, "All right, ladies, gentlemen, and fellow survivors. We're going on a little monster hunt in the rift." As the magic shield flickers to life above the village, Zara says it's exciting, but you can tell she's vibrating with pure nerves. Alice can't believe it. Arthur? Yeah, he's definitely the least thrilled person there. Clara whispers that most of these people have no idea how deadly it actually is down there. Roland lays it out. They're being sent in as the support team for 3 elite knights. Rule number 1, don't stray. Do exactly what they say. These monsters aren't here to play, they're here to kill. Time to move out. Suddenly, a magic prompt flickers in Arthur's vision. The elf is inviting him to join the party. He checks the stats. Kiara's level 28, Alice is 18, and the rest are around 16. Roland is a massive level 48, while little Oliver is only 11. Arthur's wondering if they even stand a chance. The risk level is flashing deep red. It's tempting, sure, but what is he actually trying to prove? Kiara says it's go time. Clara looks at him, "Let's move." But Arthur pulls back, apologizing. He tells them he has to bow out early. Clara's stunned. "What? No, we need you down there." Then, blushing slightly, she admits she needs him. She quickly fumbles her words, saying she just meant that he had her back in that dungeon before. They need to do that again. One of the elite knights scoffs. He says it doesn't matter what she wants. Arthur is a liability, a responsibility they can't afford. Victor jumps in, saying Arthur's actually a beast who can lift insane weights. Alice backs him up. The guy can more than handle himself in a fight. But the veteran knight shuts it down. Arthur's a human. Taking him into the heart of the rift is a risk they simply won't take. Arthur sighs. He thanks them for having his back, but says the old man's right. He can't go. The knight just grunts, "Exactly." "You heard him," the knight barks. "Into the rift. Every second we waste is a second Oakhaven draws closer to total ruin." Arthur walks over to Kiara, but she stops him. She tells him they'll be just fine. She reminds him he's seen what she can do, and he can watch them all through the group link. Arthur just looks down, feeling a bit useless, and mutters, "Right, the terminal." Her final request, watch over little Oliver while they're gone. She promises they'll be back faster than he thinks. He waves goodbye, praying she's right, but a little while later, pure nightmare. Massive creatures start circling the village. A powerful griffin slams against the Aegis shield, while a gargantuan serpent coils around the walls, staring down the archers. The command is given. Arrows rain down like a storm, peppering the beast's scales. The serpent is struck by hundreds of shafts at once. It lunges. Roland charges forward, shouting for them to watch for an opening. He's going to create a gap, and they have to take it. The knight strikes the beast, and it roars in pain. Kiara seizes the moment. She knows the path. "Follow me," she screams. She ignites her fleet of foot skill, turning into a blur of motion as she leads the group into the fray. From the ramparts, Arthur watches them disappear. They made it through. But then Harold yells out, "Trouble in the east. They're spread too thin." A massive, 3-headed hound snarls, charging right for the village gates. Arthur doesn't hesitate. "I've got this," he mutters, heading straight for the beast. The real battle is just beginning. While the knights are busy with the main force, Arthur drops down from the wall like a shadow. That 3-headed beast is already trying to tear through the shield. He has to be careful. If he goes all out, he'll level up and blow his cover. The plan, just lead this overgrown pup straight to the cavalry. He runs right past the monster, whistling like he's calling a stray puppy. "Hey, boy, over here. How about a game of tag? I'm the bait." The monster bites, literally. It lunges after him as Arthur triggers his own fleet of foot to stay one step ahead. Meanwhile, nearby, Lord Roland is locked in a fierce, life-or-death struggle with that titan of a snake. With one final, massive strike, he brings the beast down, but as the dust settles, something's wrong. He notices something very strange. Robert bursts into the clearing, breathless as he apologizes for crashing the party. But his face goes pale when he warns them they've got a much bigger, uglier guest on their heels. Without warning, he halts and lets an arrow fly. It whistles through the air, but nothing. It doesn't even scratch the massive beast, and our hero just spits out a curse. The rangers of the Elder Guard charge forward immediately. Robert hesitates, though. He's worried that if he hits back with everything he's got, he might actually end up ending the creature's life right here. Chaos erupts as the beast snaps its jaws, catching a nimble young ranger midair. Amidst the screams, our hero has one insane thought. He really doesn't want to gain any more experience levels today. Suddenly, thwack, an arrow buries itself deep in the monster's eye. Arthur pulled off the impossible shot from the high castle wall. The moment the beast falters, the rangers seize the opening to unleash hell. Seeing his chance, our hero dives into the fray, time for some real action. This is it, the killing blow. Malcolm flings himself toward the snapping jaws, knowing it's a suicide mission, but he has to take the risk to end this. With one savage, sweeping arc, he takes the beast's head clean off. He slams into the dirt hard as the mystic sigil flares up, level cleared. The three-headed hellhound is dead. No, not like this. As Lord Richard climbs atop the massive carcass, our hero just breathes a sigh of relief, thanking the gods he's still in one piece. A second later, he's calling out for a hand. Getting pinned under a dead monster isn't exactly the heroic exit he planned. The elven lord is fuming, asking what the hell the boy was thinking by not even drawing his blade. Robert just gives a sheepish shrug. He's honestly just trying to avoid another level up. Richard isn't having it. He tells him straight, in this situation, you do what must be done. You don't hide from your own nature or your power. They've already lost too much to play games with unnecessary sacrifice. Robert's stunned by the weight of those words, and he quickly summons the group's status on his mystic sigil. The screen is a sea of red. Every single soul who entered that dungeon is either unconscious or hanging by a thread. Panic sets in. Looking at the numbers, he realizes they're all at death's door, and time is running out. Robert warns Lord Richard that the whole squad is finished, but the elf just points to Arthur. Take the boy and go, you've still got work to do. Robert and Arthur sprint toward the darkness. The old instructor's voice echoes in his head. He's seen what's inside that tomb, and he knows exactly how lethal it is. He's not looking for a miracle, just hoping to drag a few souls back to the light. Then, there it is, the gaping mouth of the shadow crypt entrance. Ready for this? Robert asks. Arthur looks terrified. Can I say no? Robert gets it, he really does, but they've got brothers and sisters to save. Standing at the edge of the abyss, his mind goes to one person, Lady Catherine. For her, he'd jump into hell itself. Arthur finds his backbone and shouts, "For our friends!" Robert grins. "See you at the bottom then," and they kick off, descending into the dark on ropes. As they slide down, Arthur mumbles an apology for freezing earlier. He was just terrified of leaving his sister Margaret all alone in this world. It might not be too late to make things right. Robert's frustrated with how the day has gone, sure, but he can't honestly blame the kid for being human. He just wishes Arthur had come to him sooner. The boy looks away, clearly embarrassed by the hero's direct honesty. Let's call it a fresh start. Robert extends his hand, thanking the kid for that clutch shot against the hellhound. Arthur takes the hand with a small smile. Immediately, the mystic sigil chimes, charisma skill, level 3. Robert can only roll his eyes. Seriously, talking his way out of things isn't exactly going to be useful deep inside a dungeon. The path is this way, Arthur points. But fair warning, there are void weavers there and I might scream. The elf wasn't kidding about the spiders. Spiders everywhere. It looks like Lady Catherine's squad tore through here pretty efficiently, though, clearing the path without much trouble. But if they were this good, Arthur wonders aloud, what the hell was strong enough to break them? And why didn't they wait for the veteran knights? Something else happened, Robert mutters. Suddenly, Arthur gasps and points toward the end of a long, dark hall. A sinister red light is pulsing. I'll go first, in case it's something murderous, Robert says. Arthur doesn't even try to argue. He's more than happy to let the hero lead the way. He checks the sigil. Lady Beatrice just lost another 30 health points. They're fading fast, but they're still breathing. He looks at Arthur with grim determination. They need to move, and they need to move fast. But before he can take a step, a slimy tentacle snakes out and snatches his ankle. It yanks him off his feet, and he goes tumbling and bouncing all the way down the stone stairs. He hits the bottom hard, gasping for air. And then he sees it, a shimmering portal, identical to the one that brought him to this kingdom. Cold dread washes over him. It's just like last time. He stares at the swirling vortex, wondering, is this finally his way home? But Arthur's voice cuts through the noise, screaming his name. What about our friends, Robert? That snaps him out of it instantly. He has to save them. He has to save Catherine. A mouthful of jagged teeth tries to pull him in, but he realizes this isn't a gateway. With one flash of steel and a precise movement, he lops off the tentacles in a single, perfect strike. He's slashing left and right, thinking there's no way he survived a literal mountain of wolves just to be lunch for some floating mouthhole. Arthur bellows for him to hold on. He hurls an alchemical projectile, and boom! A brilliant blue explosion erupts right between Robert and the monster. The beast recoils, screeching as it drags its mangled limbs back, away from the two heroes. It vanishes into the darkness. Arthur rushes over, checking if he's okay. Robert just shakes his head. Honestly, he'd be dead 10 times over if it wasn't for the kid. Arthur shivers, calling it a living shadow. It hit them so fast, they didn't even have a chance to see what they were actually fighting. Alistair realizes they've barely scratched the surface of these cursed catacombs, yet the chaos has already reached a breaking point. Trembling, Elian asks how they'll survive this nightmare. Alistair's answer: alone, they're dead meat, but together his steel and the elf's wits change the game. He's putting all his chips on the boy's experience. Elian takes a deep breath and nods. He'll give it everything he's got. They hit a massive open chamber, and Alistair curses. A labyrinth. This is going to drain time their allies just don't have. Suddenly, his soul crest glows. New skill unlocked, Commander's presence. Now he can actually inspire those around him to fight harder. The duo scrambles away from a massive, level 18 Cyclops. Elian shouts to keep moving, and Alistair jokes that now he knows how it feels to be the one being hunted for once. But then, Elian yanks the knight back. Alistair's confused. Didn't he say don't stop? But the elf points down, traps, everywhere, and that monster is still thundering right behind them. Elian dances through the pressure plates with elven grace. Alistair, he's just trying to survive. Focus, he tells himself. Slow and steady, or he's a dead man. Behind them, the beast comes charging along, clumsy, reckless, and completely blind to the danger. Elian shouts that they're almost clear of the kill zone. He leaps over a tripwire, mocking the beast's giant, heavy feet as it crashes through the corridor right on their heels. Strange thing is, the Cyclops isn't hitting a single trigger. Alistair can't believe it. This monster has the luck of the gods. The creature lunges, closing the gap in a heartbeat. Alistair grins, time to change his luck. He draws his blade, but doesn't aim for the beast. He smashes the floor with all his might right as the Cyclops reaches him. Boom, he triggers the trap himself, sending a massive mechanism right into the monster's jaw and launching it into the ceiling. The soul crest confirms the kill. Elian's impressed, and Alistair realizes they can turn this whole labyrinth into one giant weapon against their enemies. No experience points for that one, though. Elian shrugs it off, but Alistair gives him a quick nod of thanks for the assist. Alistair worries they'll be lost in here forever, but Elian spots something, a glimmer of hope in the dark. Marks on the stone. Their friends left a trail. It could be a trap, sure, but in this hellhole, they have to take the risk and follow. The duo pushes deeper, navigating the twisting, cold corridors of the maze for what feels like hours. Elian stops him. A trap was sprung ahead, but there's no blood on the floor. Good sign. It means the group made it through this way safely. They reach a hall filled with heavy, swinging pendulum blades. Elian points to a scratched arrow in the corner. They're definitely on the right track now. Time to run the gauntlet. Elian offers to time the jumps, and Alistair readies himself, heart pounding against his ribs. The elf starts the count. 2, 1, 3. A massive blade whistles past, inches from Alistair's chest. Alistair gasps, saying that thing nearly gave him a free haircut. Elian looks horrified. Wait, humans have hair there. He says you guys are weird. He laughs it off, spotting another arrow on the wall. They're gaining ground, and the excitement is building. But the peace doesn't last. Soon, they're sprinting again, two nightmarish abominations hot on their heels. They slam a heavy iron door shut, bracing against the horde pushing from the other side. No marks here. Elian looks to him. Which way would he go? Alistair bets on the left path. He can't be wrong twice, right? Fast forward a bit. And yeah, they're running for their lives from even more freaks. Enough is enough. Time to fight. Alistair spins, his steel a blur as he shreds a mess of tentacles into ribbons. Beside him, Elian is raining arrows into another writhing horror. Suddenly, Alistair pins the beast down. He's bruised and battered, but he calls Elian over. Finish it. Deliver the final blow. The elf hesitates, but the knight insists. He wants his friend to take all the glory and the power that comes with it. One clean strike. The soul crest chimes. Elian has finally reached level 12. He's stunned. Most warriors are selfish with their kills. Alistair just grins and tells him to dump those points into his senses. He'll need them. Another horror lunges from the shadows, but Alistair meets it head-on, his massive broadsword splitting the air in a single arc. He feels the surge. Even if it's slower, his own brawler class just hit level 2. Progress is progress, no matter how small. He sheathes his sword, eyes sharper now. He spots a hidden floor plate and smiles, his perception just ticked up by 1. He even survives a poison needle, boosting his resistance to level 5. Safely tucked away, he starts channeling his healing arts to close his wounds. Elian watches him mend his broken skin, worried that Alistair keeps taking all the hits for him. Alistair just laughs it off. That's the job, kid. He's the shield, the elf is the scout. In his world, the shield stands in front so his friends don't have to. The elf's eyes light up. Wait, they're friends. Alistair pulls him into a quick half-hug. Anyone who's saved his neck this many times qualifies for that. But the moment is cut short. Elian freezes, his pointed ears twitching. They aren't alone in this corridor anymore. A dark, viscous shape oozes from the shadows. A black slime. This isn't a random monster, this is a targeted hit. Someone wants Alistair dead. Out of nowhere, a twisted abomination lunges from the shadows, and Robert's scrying crystal goes haywire, displaying nothing but a chaotic mess of glitched arcane runes. The group is paralyzed with pure terror, Robert barely stammering out a question of whether this nightmare is even real before Cedric blurs into motion, snatching him away just as a crossbow bolt whistles through the air. Move to the iron doors now, Robert roars, trying to snap everyone back to reality. But those things, they aren't stopping, skittering across the stone walls while raining down a relentless hail of arrows from the dark. They reach the threshold, but as they scramble down the spiral stairs, Cedric takes a brutal hit and goes tumbling, crashing right into Elric as the two of them become a chaotic mess of limbs rolling down the stone steps. They hit the bottom with a sickening thud, heads knocking together so hard they're seeing stars, just lying there for a second while the world stops spinning. Cedric groans, cursing the day he decided to follow this squad, but the realization hits him like a physical blow. He finally knows what happened to the missing veteran wardens. A trembling voice cuts through the silence as Elric points into the gloom. And there it is, a massive, vaulted hall where some kind of mechanical guardian is desperately trying to claw its way toward something in the center. That's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen, Elric whispers, but Cedric just shakes his head, pointing further in. No, look over there, that is. Deep in the chamber stands a lone tower, and it's being smothered by hundreds. No, thousands of spiders descending like a black tide, just as Elric freezes, hearing a faint voice echoing from the swarm. It's Lady Alice, complaining about the sheer number of the beasts, and Robert's heart nearly stops when he realizes his whole squad is trapped somewhere in that mess. "We found them," Robert shouts, his voice cracking with a mix of relief and pure adrenaline. They are alive by the Lothian Gate. Great news, right? Not for Cedric, who's currently staring down an endless sea of skittering legs and venomous fangs, definitely not thrilled about the odds of this fight. The sheer scale of the arachnid army is mind-blowing as they start closing in, and Cedric doesn't waste a second. He demands every fire vial they've got. Elric tries to argue that a few alchemy bombs won't even scratch a swarm this big, but Cedric just gives him a look that says, "Shut up and trust me." No more talking. The two of them start lobbing those little explosive spheres into the thick of the crawling shadows as fast as they can. The second Cedric's vial hits, his swarmbane instinct kicks in, turning a simple blast into a massive, earth-shaking inferno that vaporizes dozens of spiders in a single heartbeat. It is absolutely raining spider guts, legs, shells, and ichor falling from the ceiling like some kind of twisted, disgusting confetti. Elric is standing there with his jaw on the floor, wondering how a human can move like that. But there's no time for questions because the massive queen spider has just locked eyes with Cedric. Cedric freezes, not because he's brave, but because he is genuinely terrified of these things, right as the monstrosity shatters its restraints and charges with a deafening screech. They're hauling tail now, sprinting for their lives while Elric plays the world's most dangerous game of catch, feeding Cedric alchemy bombs on the fly. He's clearing the path with every throw, stacking up martial insights, and watching his berserker rank skyrocket as he carves through the lesser swarm. As he catches the last of the ammo, a spark returns to his eyes and he skids to a halt, turning back to face the towering queen with a grin that's more than a little insane. "Hey, ugly, catch!" he yells, lobbing a whole handful of explosive vials directly into the monster's screeching maw. Boom, the blast rips through the queen and her hatchlings alike, the heat singeing Cedric's own skin, but his second wind ability kicks in instantly, knitting his flesh back together before the smoke even clears. He looks like a total maniac now. "Yeah, you had me scared for a minute," he laughs, his voice dripping with malice. "But now, I'm your worst nightmare. Did you really expect a fair fight?" Not a chance. Cedric doesn't do fair. For a monster like this, the only answer is total extermination and enough fire to level a castle. After a dozen more explosions, the massive queen finally collapses into a heap of charred chitin, and the notification pings, "Level up, baby." But as the smoke clears, Elric feels a chill that has nothing to do with the spiders. A dark, suffocating aura is pouring off Cedric. When Cedric turns around, his eyes are cold, empty, and devoid of any human emotion, making the poor elf nearly lose his lunch just from looking at him. Elric is legitimately shaking, thinking he definitely should have worn his brown trousers today because this hero looks scarier than the monsters. Cedric just blinks and offers a half-hearted apology, admitting he's just really, really hates spiders, but Elric points out the obvious. The big one is dead, but the swarm isn't. They look back and, oh boy, the entire hive is glowing red, and they look absolutely pissed that their queen just got turned into a barbecue. "Take the potions and get the wounded out of here," Cedric commands, drawing his steel. "I'll be the distraction." Elric screams that it's a suicide mission, but Cedric just flashes a cocky smirk, promising he's not planning on dying in a hole like this today. And honestly, he's got every reason to be confident, with his health topped off and his poison ward and fury skills primed and ready to blow. He lunges, and with a single, devastating arc of his blade, he clears a path through a dozen spiders like he's harvesting wheat. Watching from the shadows, Elric can only shake his head. This man is a complete and utter lunatic. But he's got his own job to do. He turns his attention to the chimera, a massive lion-serpent hybrid that's currently trying to claw its way up the wall toward the trapped elves. Elric holds his breath, praying to every god he knows that his stealth magic is enough to keep him invisible to those predatory eyes. He needs a gap, a split-second window to move, and he knows exactly how to get it. He tosses a stone into the far corner, and as the snake tails snap toward the noise, Elric slips past like a ghost, reaching the heavy chamber doors unnoticed. His hands are shaking, but he pulls out his tools and starts working the lock, desperate to get those doors open before things get even worse. Meanwhile, Cedric is in the middle of the room turning the entire hive into a scorched earth zone, laughing like a madman while he tears through every bug in his sight. Alaric actually tries to apologize, just to see if it helps, because honestly, just because he slaughtered their entire broodmother doesn't mean they need to be this upset about it. But yeah, that's a hard no. It's not working at all, and now these tiny crawlers are swarming him, fangs dripping with lethal venom. Is he about to turn into some kind of night spider? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Talk about a desperate situation. No matter how fast he sprints, the nightmare is everywhere, on the ceiling, the stones, the walls, even the damn doors. Cornered and out of options, he decides it's time for something absolutely insane to survive. He just launches himself down the grand staircase in a massive hero leap. And check this out, he nails the landing. One knee down, hand balancing. The classic look how cool I am pose. But let's be real for a second. We all know those landings are absolute murder on the joints. Poor guy can barely stand, using his broadsword just to keep from collapsing. But as the swarm closes in, he just smirks. He tells them he's not the one trapped in here. They are. Meanwhile, the trapped survivors are losing their minds, wondering where the hell that entire swarm of spiders suddenly vanished to. But then, a scratching sound, right at the heavy oak door. Anxiety levels, through the roof. They think it's more monsters, but then they hear young Edward's voice. They're stunned. How is this kid still breathing? They swing the door open and demand to know what he's doing there. His answer, "Relax, I'm here to save the day." The veteran knights are baffled. How did he bypass the broodmother? When Edward says Sir Alaric killed her, they're floored that a human could actually do that. Look, it wasn't exactly a fair fight since he basically incinerated the whole room. But hey, victory is victory, right? The elder knight sighs. He mentions they're lucky. They don't have to deal with two of those beastly scouts anymore, leaving the young one wondering what happened to the other guy. His companion keeps quiet, though. He's just relieved his friend finally has some backup for once. The long-haired knight asks where our human hero is, but the young one just gives this incredibly confident look. He knows Alaric is out there wiping out pests. The realization hits that massive manticore is slowly closing in. They've got to move, and they've got to move now. The knight asks about the wounded, and good news. The potions did their job. They're out of immediate danger, at least. Still, there's zero word on when they'll actually be able to stand on their own 2 feet again. It's a mess. That beast is slamming into the walls, shaking the entire tower. Everyone's worried the whole place will collapse before they can even draw a sword. The situation is straight up dire. They need to evacuate fast, but there's just one major problem. Facing that monstrosity with a bunch of crippled soldiers. Yeah, that's pretty much a suicide mission. But then our young knight speaks up. He's small enough to squeeze through that narrow window and get outside. He's going to distract it while the others recover. Obviously, the veterans are pissed. They know he's basically signing his own death warrant. But the kid just smiles and tells them they're forgetting one very important member of their little squad. And yeah, we know exactly who he means, the greatest pest exterminator in kingdom history. Sir Alaric is still out there, absolutely wrecking those spiders. He looks absolutely sinister, that terrifying gaze of his. Even the remaining spiders can't stand to look at him for more than a second. They start scurrying away in terror while he just taunts them. Yeah, keep running if you're that scared. But as he heads up the stairs, he feels it, this heavy, intimidating presence. He's wondering what kind of nightmare is waiting for him up there. But hey, he's no idiot. He just calmly closes the door and decides that whatever that thing is, it can stay exactly where it is. Time for a quick status check. The basics, you know. He's racked up a ton of XP from that slaughter and even leveled up a few skills. But when he gets back to the main hall, he sees that giant chimera getting pelted with arrows. And man, things are getting weird. That beast is terrifying. It actually bites down on the arrows like they're nothing but toothpicks. Just zero respect for elven archery. It starts pouring all its strength into the climb, claws digging deep into the stone as it almost reaches the defenders at the top. Right then, the young knight leaps, barely dodging a massive swipe from those claws. He slams into the dirt hard, even cracking his head against a rock. Alaric rushes over, asking if he's still in one piece after a fall like that. But there's no time for a heart-to-heart, because that beast is already closing the distance. Bad news, the kid twisted his ankle in the fall. Alaric is low-key annoyed. He honestly thought elves were supposed to be as agile as cats. Only problem, the poor kid has absolutely no idea what a cat even is. While the chimera is busy hunting them down, it takes a few arrows to the back and immediately pivots toward the archers above. But let's be honest, those arrows are just a distraction. They aren't doing any real damage to that hide. The kid begs to be left behind, but Alaric, he's not having it. He dumps his points into endurance and stands his ground as the beast charges right at them. Wham! The beast strikes nothing but dirt. Alaric's dash skill kicks in just in time, and he's gone, bolting through the cavern with Aloin clinging to his back for dear life. The little elf is actually asking if he has a plan. Honestly, that should be her job since she's the one who jumped into this mess so recklessly. But Alaric's brilliant strategy, just keep running and pray some knights from the capital show up. If no help arrives, yeah, they're totally toast. Not gonna lie, things are looking bleak. The monster lets out a roar so massive it literally shakes the foundations of this ancient dungeon. That vibration starts dislodging huge stone spikes from the ceiling. They're swinging loose for a second, then plunging straight down toward our duo. Alaric is quick, I'll give him that, but even with his agility, there's only so much dodging a guy can do before his luck runs out. A massive boulder nearly crushes him into a pancake, forcing him to dump his remaining stat points into perception just to stay alive. "How's it looking back there?" he yells. Aloin looks back and pales that Shadow Beast is closing the gap way faster than they expected. She's not just sitting there, though. She's grabbing her bow, lining up a desperate shot while bouncing on his shoulders. This is giving me major flashbacks to those high-speed chase legends where you're hanging off the back of a runaway carriage, firing at anything that moves. Thwack, a perfect shot. The arrow sinks deep into the creature's shoulder, and it lets out a howl of pure, unadulterated agony. Honestly, it might just be rage at this point. Either way, our knight and his elf companion desperately need a distraction if they're going to survive. They try a tag-team combo, arrows flying and Alaric's blade flashing, but it's useless. This thing's armor is maxed out. It doesn't feel a thing. Don't forget, Alaric is running on fumes after slaughtering thousands of spiders earlier. He's at his absolute limit. And then, disaster strikes. A critical damage warning flashes in his vision before he even feels the impact. That's how fast this monster truly is. Boom, he's slammed into a stone pillar and collapses like a broken wooden doll. He tries to move, but his body just isn't responding this time. The hit was so brutal it rattled his brain. His vision is swimming, and focusing on his skills is practically impossible now. The beast lunges for the kill. Aloin is right there, but with her mangled ankle, she's completely helpless to stop the coming slaughter. Death is staring Alaric right in the face. It's over, but just as the claws descend, something bizarre starts to happen. And that's where we're leaving it. Don't miss the reveal. Hit that notification bell right now so you're ready for the next part. Catch you in the next one, right here on 𝒕𝒐𝒔.